Streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
18 games sounds great, but until you're the one that's going out there and putting the helmet on for 18 of those games, then come talk to me.
Dan Hurley reportedly met with his UConn players this morning to tell them that he has talked to the Lakers about their head coaching gig, but it's business as usual for now.
Because you got game one of the NBA Finals tonight.
So I like Boston in 6. I actually like Dallas, though, in game 1. I think they're going to win game 1 because this is what the Celtics do.
Mike Danger.
I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be as high on the Bills as everybody else is going to be.
Gene Battaglia.
And then I brought up, hey, which conspiracy theory do you believe in the most? I think that Kurt Schilling faked the bloody sock.
Or the Chicago Cubs.
No, I'm sorry.
Yankees win!
Amerks Hockey.
Michael Leone, who's currently head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the United States Hockey League.
A month-long college football playoff feels right.
I don't like to talk about myself. Will you allow me just this one time? Gene's above sportsmanship.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Right off the top.
Off the top.
Will Cleveland agrees with me. He's like, you're 100% right. Like, dangerous take. I appreciate you, Will, or anybody that writes in. Like, your take that you, as fans, have to act like the NHL when you lose, go over and shake another fan's hand.
It's okay. Look, half of the people in this studio have class, and the other half are named Gene Battaglia. It's fine. I totally get it. Will, you're a degenerate too? That's fine. Oh, totally cool. You're just going to pout, moan, stomp, be upset? You think those players are happy that they just lost a series? They got to shake their hands, their opponent's hands. They got to shake their hands.
They're getting paid.
Yeah.
And you're a professional.
This is sportsmanship.
As a fan, you would never, ever. This came up yesterday because there's a video that Danger shared of Edmonton and Vancouver fans shaking hands. But I just want to point out that's at a controlled setting, a watch party where these people know one another.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm not. That's the difference.
Your response was a little off-putting. I have to shake hands with sweaty, gross. These are your fellow human beings, Gino. Yes, they're from Syracuse, and we look down on them, of course, but they are your fellow human beings, after all. And it's a long series, a long, drawn-out series. You're going to say, no, I will not shake the hand of a worthy opponent?
I finally got the chance to apologize to your wife today.
Oh, for leaving the game early without saying goodbye to anybody?
Without saying goodbye. And Danger and I, we after we did our live broadcast. By the way, welcome to the Sports Bar.
Can I tell you? I know her response. Her response was, I didn't even think about it. She probably didn't even think about it. Didn't even register with her.
She didn't think about it, and I said for a couple reasons. Number one, I was kind of upset, and then number two, I'm like, oh gosh, there goes our discussion about the Amerks.
Right.
It just goes right out the door.
Yep. No more Amerks. Well, we have had Amerks talk.
We have
plenty of time yesterday talking about what could potentially happen here as far as the team getting a new head coach. We'll keep our ear to the ground on that and keep you abreast of any new developments as they occur. And we have a great guest coming in later on this afternoon who can share a little bit more on this coaching search. Joe Yurden, who covers the NHL for Bleacher Report. You can also check out Joe's work at Noted Hockey.
Wait, breaking news sounder.
Breaking news in the Sports Bar.
Ow! Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
Michael Leone is the new head coach of the Rochester Americans.
Look at that.
We're the first to report.
Look at that. We just got word from the Amerks on that one.
Yeah, I'm just going to take you talk amongst yourself. I mean, we got to be first on this.
All right. So, well, I'd rather be right than be first. Yeah. We are right. It is
right.
We discussed yesterday ad nauseum that Michael Leone, coming from Green Bay in the Junior League, he will be your next head coach of the Rochester Americans. So younger coach, not a ton of head coaching experience, zero head coaching experience in the AHL level. Now your new head coach of the Rochester Americans. Resume aside, this feels like a no-brainer with a last name like Leone. He's Italian! Of course he's the head coach of the Rochester Americans. Makes all the sense in the world. So later on this afternoon, when we speak with Joe Yurden of Bleacher Report, we'll find out what Joe knows about this new head coach of the Rochester Americans. And who knows, maybe we have the chance to talk to Michael Leone sooner rather than later here in the Sports Bar.
Yep, so they're going to announce it within this hour, so congratulations. 36 years old, and I guess what would be our questions right off the top? Like, okay, the staff, his philosophy, does he know Seth Appert? Well, I guess he does, but how deep? So Michael Leone, or does he go by Mike? And I'm assuming it's Leone. Like, we got to make sure we get the pronunciation down.
Well, lots to get to. Lots to get to with the new head coach of the Rochester Americans.
What Italian restaurant are we taking him over on the west side?
Oh, west side?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's Reds, right? I mean, like
that's
that's the one. I mean, we're not taking him to the Olive Garden. I can tell you that.
No,
there's lots of good Italian places. You don't have to go very far from where you are over there at Blue Cross. We could go to Rocco's. Good Italian meal at Rocco's on Monroe Avenue.
There's plenty of places.
Plenty of places that we could take our guy for his first Italian meal in Rochester. We have a new head coach for the Rochester Americans. You heard it in the Sports Bar first. Michael Leone, inbound from Green Bay to be your new Amerks head coach. Good scoop, Gino. I know you've been working hard on that one. So
there we go. Oh,
oh, thanks,
Thank you,
Derek. Derek, the pizza dude, acting as our video director there. It's the reason why I'm trying to monitor us while we're on the air. Camera's not even on. It's completely like showing the side of the studio. There we go.
Yeah, that's but it's good to have Derek around.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everything. I'm excited. 4 o'clock today, we're going to talk to Mike McNansky. Get his thought. He's in Saratoga right now. You ever do Saratoga?
No.
I've heard nice things about Saratoga.
Same.
Yeah.
Betting the horses, I guess, huh?
Yeah, he's gone in that direction. Of course, what makes this unique is Belmont. Hey, Belmont, Long Island. No, it's up in Saratoga. So this is a big win for across the state, the third leg of the Triple Crown. But we're inviting Mott, who has the Boston sports radio roots, talk a little bit about the Celtics and the Mavs. That's coming up at 4:05. And little did I know that that would not be the top NBA story today.
I know. I'll leave it to the Lakers, right? We'll get to that in a second. But yes, welcome into the Sports Bar. We appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for listening and tuning in at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Sports Bar sounds its best in the free-to-download Odyssey app. We are on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And the video stream, as we were just mentioning, cameras are aligned, and you can watch the Sports Bar now on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester and also on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Our phone number, 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. Leave it to the Lakers on the day that Game 1 of the NBA Finals gets underway. The Lakers reportedly making a bold move here for their new head coach.
Well, that's what they're trying to do, and this is the rare instance where actually I have the same take as Skip Bayless, which Skip Bayless said earlier, like, hey, this doesn't pass the smell test. And it really doesn't. And you have to go back 20 years, but the Lakers pulled this same stunt 20 years ago with the best college coach at the time. You're familiar with Mike Krzyzewski. Mike Krzyzewski supposedly was going to be the new head coach of the LA Lakers and Coach Kobe Bryant and everything until you realize, wait a second, this isn't really a done deal. This was just going back and forth, and Coach K in the end decided, hey, Duke is right for me. Now, I get it. College basketball 20 years ago ain't college basketball today. I completely understand that. But why isn't this deal done yet? Normally, you don't kind of get the below the radar. This would give Hurley an opportunity to say, hey, UConn, 2 straight championships. We're on the map. We have the program. If UConn wants to make a play to keep Hurley, who, by the way, is 51, he's not some kid, okay? If he's going to make a move like this, maybe it's now. But to me, this seems way up in the air. I'm not penciling in at all Hurley heading to the LA Lakers.
I feel pretty good about it. I feel like you wouldn't get this report from Woj first thing this morning unless they were pretty far along, and it's just now about dotting I's and crossing T's. And I'll even go further and say, for the Lakers, I kind of like this move. I kind of like the move of making the star of your team, the face of your franchise in the future, your head coach. This becomes Dan Hurley's team. You have LeBron. You may have LeBron's son, but you will have LeBron only for the next, 1-2 years, maybe? And after that, it's Hurley's show. And he's shown that he's able to find players that fit his system, develop them into stars. You don't need to worry if you're the Lakers about who the next big name star is going to be. You have the big name star. It's Dan Hurley. And Dan Hurley has shown through his ability at the college ranks that he can find guys that fit his system exquisitely, that execute exceptionally. Not necessarily star names, brand names, but guys that will come in, play hard for their coach, and maybe even win some championships for Lakers. I kind of like this move if you're Dan Hurley and if you're the Lakers.
Okay, so that's all true, but the curious part of this is what the real GM of the Lakers is doing. Is he trying to set up his son here? Like, if you're Bronny James and you're coming in, and look, he doesn't belong in this league. We can all kind of agree that on his merit alone on the court, but he's going to have a roster spot wherever LeBron is. But given that opportunity, can he actually make something of that opportunity? Well, how could he go about that? Find one of the best coaches ever to help my son.
What if the thing that's holding this up from being final is that? What if it is that? Like, hey, I have no problem becoming the next head coach of the Lakers, but I'm not drafting LeBron's kid. We have limited resources in the draft as it is. I'm not going to take a pick and waste it on somebody who's not ready to play. Yeah, I know I can develop anybody to fit my system, but that's not a guy I would choose. So if I'm going to take this job, he better be okay with the idea that I'm not taking his son. And long term, again, I think long term, when you look beyond the next couple of seasons, Dan Hurley is the face of your franchise. Dan Hurley is the star of your team, even though he's just the coach. It can work. But I think maybe if you're Dan Hurley, that might be one of the negotiating sticking points there. Like, yeah, I get it. LeBron is the best, at worst, the second best to ever play the game. And would love to have the opportunity to work with him. And LeBron has publicly praised Dan Hurley as well. You could find tweets from LeBron about Dan Hurley and the job that he's done at UConn. If you look hard enough, LeBron is not like shy about his fandom for Dan Hurley. He likes Dan Hurley.
All right, so and what we do in the sports bar is not the story, but try to peel back here. What's the agenda here? Why leak this to Woj? Was Woj really digging like, aha, they're talking to each other? Who put that in Woj's ear? Because all of a sudden, that story broke at 6:50 this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the timing of that. It's done for business purposes. Like, literally, like Woj either was like, sit on this until tomorrow morning and we're going to win this. I don't know if that was Hurley's camp, and I don't know for the Lakers camp, but I think it's fascinating.
What if it was UConn?
Could have been UConn putting that out.
What if it was UConn putting it out there? Because now you're Dan Hurley, and this is out there, and you heard it in the open, like Dan Hurley had to meet with his team. Hey, just to give you a heads up, I am talking to them. Nothing has been decided yet, but I am talking to them. I mean, if you're, the way college athletics goes now, it might not even matter because it's like, oh, well, if Dan Hurley's not our coach, just go play somewhere else next year. It's no big deal. It might not mean as much now as it used to mean when a head coach of a college program ups and leaves without much notice for the recruits that he brought in.
Well, time out on that. When does the portal open and close, though? I know it's still open, but the time to register for the portal, I got to look this up. Somebody in the basketball community, let me know this, because it is kind of late in the process if you're going to make a move like this from college to the NBA. So some of these players are like, wait a second, had I known this, I would have been in the portal perhaps.
Perhaps. So you have to kind of like think about where that report from Woj originated from. What direction did it originate from? Was it the Lakers trying to get a jump on this? Maybe put a little pressure on Hurley to get a deal done? Did it come from UConn to put a little pressure on Hurley to stay?
Did it come just from the ego of Jeannie Buss with the hated Boston Celtics ready to be on, like, bam, let's take them out. Danger, it could be just as simple as that.
On the night where the Celtics try to become the winningest franchise in the NBA.
We are the Lakers, and we are the story of this league, and probably they're sitting back, and they don't like it being mocked that LeBron's going to handpick J.J. Redick. Let's kind of, at least, maybe it's not a done deal, but let's plant this story on the day of the NBA final, game one. I could see that.
It could be that as well, yeah. I actually like the story today because it does get us off of the idea of J.J. Redick becoming the next coach of the L.A. Lakers. LeBron's buddy being his head coach at the Lakers feels like something that's beneath the L.A. Lakers.
Does that come up on the broadcast tonight? Yes or no?
Maybe tongue in cheek, like under a veil of, there'll be an inside joke or something like that about JJ.
That
Redick.
would be the way. Yeah.
It won't come out and like be discussed at length, but maybe a quick jab, something along those lines. Oh, by the way, yes, there is a game 1 tonight in Boston, and yes, this series has the potential to be magnificent. I mean, you've got no shortage of storylines. I can't wait to talk to Mutt and ask how he feels the Boston faithful will receive Kyrie Irving in his return to the Garden now with the Dallas Mavericks in an NBA final. Kyrie hasn't had very much luck in the Garden since stomping on the Celtic logo as a member of the Nets. So we'll get into that with Mutt when he joins us here in just a few, right around 4:05 this afternoon.
Yeah, we have time for your calls, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. When was the last time we actually had an intern? It's been a few years here, Danger.
We have an intern.
Yeah.
Zach, go ahead. Pull up over here, and we'll put you on the air just for a second. Now,
just say hello, Zach.
Day one, Zach, tools of the trade. Next, I want you to bring your headphones in for tomorrow morning. We know you're coming in tomorrow morning to hang out with the CMF guys with the break room. So bring headphones. Got to have your cans. Tools of the trade, right? Like you're not going to build a house without a hammer. So we got to get some headphones so you can hear your sound. Go ahead and pull up a mic right there. Zach, you are at SUNY Brockport. Shocking.
Yeah.
Because we've got so many people here that are from SUNY Brockport.
Somebody asked that, why so many SUNY? You know what? It's just a pipeline. That's pretty good. You're also a Yankee fan. Dude.
Yes.
Dude, okay, I'm a Met fan. Okay, so here are the rules here, all right? Like, you be respectful. We're down and out, Zach, okay? Like,
I got you.
You got me.
Zach, don't listen to a word he just said. We mock him unmercifully for being a Met fan.
That's too bad. I mean, there's always one,
He's a social misfit. He revels in the misery of others.
They just swept the Nationals.
You swept the Nationals? You get a cookie for that. Congratulations.
I was going to say it's the Nationals.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
It's great, Gene. I know. I had a friend in one of my text chains yesterday say, hey, I made a lot of money betting the Mets. I'm like, the Mets are actually playing pretty good. I'm like, they're playing the Nationals. Good for you that you picked the Mets to sweep the Nationals. Nice job. I even told you yesterday, I'm like, it's not really a bet for the Mets as much as it's a bet against the Nationals.
Like, is there a bigger I'm just here for the paycheck player in sports today than Patrick Corbin?
No,
there's not. Like any team that was like, hey, we need to get better, you would have eaten that years ago and moved on. But we're just here. Zach, what year are you?
I'm going into my senior year.
All right. So this is what you do.
We're molding, we're shaping, we're sculpting young Zach for a future in broadcasting should he desire one. That's our job this summer in the sports bar.
Either that or he's going to be like, nope. Not for me.
Or he'll absolutely be like, no, I like money too much to get a career in broadcasting. So Zach, as a Yankees fan, and I feel like every time I see you, we always start our conversations with the Yankees. You're like, hey, they won again last night. Zach, are the Yankees going to lose a game for the rest of this season? Yes or no?
I hope not, but most likely.
Most likely, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So he's an optimistic Yankee fan, but he's also realistic. He knows that they're not going to go undefeated for the rest of the season. Playing unbelievable this year.
They are.
Kind of crazy.
If they don't, I'm going to be mad if they don't re-sign Juan Soto. They need to.
See, this is like first world problems. Let's enjoy the ride. You weren't worried about Aaron Judge as much, right? So you'll get it done. Everything will be fine. You're not going to lose them to the Mets, although be fun to kind of watch Yankee fans sweat.
I don't think you're going to lose him to the Mets.
No.
I feel bad for you, Chino. I really do.
No, it's a
kind of a mess.
big rebuild.
It's kind of a mess.
Hey, but by the way, James Wood, the IL Player of the Month for May.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Red Wings are losing right now.
Okay. Zach, welcome aboard. Glad to have you in the sports bar hanging out this afternoon. We know we're going to see you around throughout the course of the summer. We've got Bill's training camp at the end of the summer. Hopefully we have a chance to hang out there a little bit as well. We'll try to put you to work. We try not to steer you in the wrong direction or taint your young, malleable mind here as you're getting ready for your future. Welcome aboard, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You got
Looking
it.
forward to it.
That's our buddy Zach, who will be interning with us. You'll hear him throughout the course of the summer. Yeah, Zach the intern. Intern Zach. Hanging out with us today in the sports bar. Let's take a quick break here. There's a couple things to get to from around the NFL. We've got mandatory minicamp for the Bills, of course, next week. Pretty noteworthy story out of Kansas City. They had a significant scare at one of their team meetings today and actually had to cancel their practice that was scheduled for today.
Yeah, and I got an update out of Dolphins camp. Mike McDaniel is doing down with the Dolphins. It's a strategy I don't know I would try. Certainly they didn't do this in Buffalo. I'll put it that way. So we pay a little more attention here to the AFC East teams who got that. And Danger, I'm not going to say when we play I'll drink to that you had a big influence on me, but I'm going to say this. I've come around on one of your takes.
Oh! You're going to start shaking the hands of the opponents after?
No, it's not that take. It was a take on how you were down on a particular sport, and then another story. Like, all right. And so I've got some thoughts.
All right, we'll get to that and more next. We've got some takes on the way with I'll Drink to That. And we've got Mike Mutnansky, stopping by to break down the Celtics and the Mavs series, which gets underway tonight. That's happening just after 4 o'clock. Again, you can call us anytime. 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. Odyssey. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Fan Rochester reporting, and it's official. The Rochester Americans have hired Mike Leone as their new head coach. Leone, 36 years old. He has a background with the U.S. National Development Team. NBA Finals tonight, it's Game 1. Dallas at Boston. Head coach Joe Mazzulla, the Celtics, giving an update on Kristaps Porzingis.
He's working on it. I thought he's done a great job working hard, getting to this point. Has gone through the practices, and still have to see how he responds, each day to the what he's doing from a physical standpoint. So I think he's on pace, and he's doing everything he can to get back.
Rochester Red Wings, bottom of the 7th, trailing at Worcester by a score of 9-4. Yankees tonight taking on the Twins. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today, save 2-for-1 rounds of golf to Wildwood Country Club. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The greatest thing I learned from Boston was just being able to manage not only my emotions, but just what's going on a day-to-day basis of being a leader of a team or being one of the leaders and having young guys around you that have their own goals.
It's Kyrie Irving talking about his time in Boston, now returning as a member of the Dallas Mavericks Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to talking to Mike Mutnansky about it here in about a half an hour or so, Gino.
Yeah, so Mutt, Boston sports radio background. I want to quiz him also on the Patriots, too. Like, everybody is saying this is going to be a bad year for New England. Could they actually be the odds-on favorite for the number one pick in 2025?
How long is the leash for Mr. Mayo?
Mr. Mayo. The story real quick. When I went up to Gerard Mayo,
he was a rookie.
I called him Jared, and he corrected me. I'm Gerard, and there's no worse feeling than something I should have known, and I blew it. So quickly apologized. He was kind enough to do the interview, and then afterward, your mind starts playing tricks on you. Like, wait a second, is it Jared? Is it Gerard? Is it I can't blow this again. So I go to the alternative. Thank you, Mr. Mayo.
You call him Jared Mayo a second time, he might run you through the locker, right?
You're right.
So you got to get it right.
I got to get it right. What's it, Mr. Mayo?
You called a rookie Mr.
called
Mayo.
a 21-year-old Mr. Mayo. But, I gave him respect, and he probably, who knows, that might have shaped him, put him on his way, Danger. Like,
Possibly.
Possibly.
Well, he's Mr. Mayo in the sports bar. We'll see what kind of a leash he has if the Patriots do have a rough season.
Do you think, I could ever, meet Gerard Mayo, years down the road and be like, I felt really, really bad about that one time?
That would be a funny story to tell him, and he'd probably be like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, dude. I really don't know. People have been mispronouncing my name my whole life, so I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, that would be what else is happening here in the AFC East, Gino?
Well, this courtesy of our friend Marcel Louis Jacques, who for years was covering the Bills for ESPN and then went down to Miami. And he's on the Dolphin beat, and Dolphin OTA is going on right now, and this is an observation. I'm telling you, it's a little odd. At least I think it's odd.
Well, didn't he cancel the final day of practices? I saw that.
He did do that. So
that's not uncommon.
No, but this I don't think is common. Mike McDaniel is scheduling meetings to start at 24 past the hour. We're coming up on, we just passed 3:24, so the next meeting will be 4:24.
Mm-hmm.
So he's instructing his staff to do this in such a way. Now, this isn't the Tom Coughlin rule of, Tom Coughlin had the rule of, hey, if the meeting is at 4 o'clock, that means you're there at 3:55, and if you'll be late. Well, no, it's not that at all. Why is he doing this? Well, it's to represent the 24 years it's been since the Dolphins have won a playoff game.
Oh, boy.
And to motivate the team to snap that drought in, 2024. Really, Danger, anytime we ask the Bills, we learned this early on, for any of these new Bills, and this is going back to the drought era, hey, I don't know if you heard, but there's a drought. The answer was very simple. They weren't here the whole darn time.
Yeah.
So why is Mike McDaniel owning everything here, dating back to Nick Saban, Sage Rosenfels, Cleo Lemon.
Oh, my God.
This is like a bold strategy just to take the whole thing. And I never thought of the Dolphins being in this, finger quote, drought. I mean, they made the postseason. Like, where's the line when you want to invent your own drought? Is this some motivational tactic to put the meetings at 24 past the hour?
A little bit more pressure on the team. Like, this is the year we're going to get it done. I think it starts at the top. I think there's probably a lot of pressure on McDaniel. Look, this guy got brought in as this young whiz kid kind of offensive mind, and what he's done in Miami is probably better than what they had, certainly, but it's not enough to get a team to the postseason, especially when it's been 24 years since you've won a postseason game. And your reputation down the stretch isn't great. You had the year with Tua where he, his brain was oatmeal. And then last year you kind of collapsed down the stretch as well. This team has a hard time finishing seasons. If that's the strategy going in, we want to focus in on our ineptitude in the postseason for the next few months.
Here's why I'm not in favor. It's such a long season. Like, you're putting this out. Be like saying to
here's what I don't like about it. I don't like that it focuses on a negative. Focus on a positive. In this regard, I would say that what the Bills did, what McDermott did when he came in, we remember the catchy phrases and the cliches and the things, the banners that were hanging up around camp. Playoff caliber.
Yeah.
Just say you're playoff caliber. Or say you're championship caliber.
Even before that process. What did process even mean? Well, really, we're not very good.
We're focusing in on the process.
Can you just kind of, and you hear Bobby Babbitt about winning minute by minute and blah, blah, blah. All right, hey, if you got a long way to go, let's just try to win today. That's another coach speak thing. So this isn't winning today. This is talking about the end of the story here.
It's bringing up a negative, and a lot of guys, most of the guys that are there have nothing to do with it. So, in fact, all of them have nothing to do with the majority of that time that has lapsed from the last playoff win. So I'm not crazy about that. I would much rather hear a coach say, focus on what they believe they are. That is a positive, not what we have been. That is a negative.
Now, I would have had more respect had he done this. And he wouldn't do this. NFL coaches don't do this. The Jim Harbaugh route, meaning Harbaugh, for years and years and years, before they won a national championship, before they even got to the playoffs, they could never get by Ohio State.
Right.
So what he hung up signs all over the weight room, the meeting rooms, the locker room. What are you doing today to beat Ohio State? And you're looking up at the ceiling while you're ready to do a bench press, and there's that darn sign.
I love it.
Shouldn't that be the message for these knuckleheads now? What are you doing today to beat the Buffalo Bills? Because that's the team they cannot get past.
Or you just keep a number in mind. The number is 12. That's how many wins you're going to need to win the division. 12. Have that number in your head. Or 14 or 13 or whatever you think it is. You focus on that. But I do like the idea. I mean, I think the Bills, I think Rex tried to instill some of that in the Bills during the drought, like beat New England. That was it. We want to beat New England. I love when a coach zeroes in on a rival and says, look, the season's long, but really the biggest thing we want to do is beat the Green Bay Packers. Like that if I hear that from a coach, I'm spitting. You want to take out your rival? I'm in.
So you win the fan base over with that. And if McDaniel said that to his fan base, you were tired of Buffalo, he would win that over. But does that actually work with professionals? I'm just I don't know. Like, if it did, why wouldn't we see this more, I guess? Probably because every opponent is viewed as tough. The NFL, every opponent can beat you at any
Yes, point. And you can also you could end up on that team tomorrow. Right? Like, your time with a team isn't necessarily your entire career. Aaron Jones is going to be running out of the backfield for the Minnesota Vikings against his former team, the only team he's known, the Green Bay Packers, this upcoming season. Yeah, when you're in Green Bay, you hate the Minnesota Vikings. Well, now he's in Minnesota. He has to hate the Green Bay Packers. Does he hate the Green Bay Packers? I don't think he does. I don't think he does.
I don't think Jordan Poyer hated the Miami Dolphins, or now he doesn't hate the Buffalo Bills.
Correct. So they are men. They are professionals. They're probably motivated by money more than they're motivated by what a coach wants out of them in terms of breaking a drought. But the Harbaugh thing of what are you doing to beat Ohio State today, I kind of dig. I kind of think that and can't really argue with the results. Like, he got one. He got a championship.
But at the time, it was a punchline. Like, Michigan couldn't get by Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then until they actually did. And that changed everything. So if I'm Mike McDaniel putting the meetings at 24, hey, step one, win the division. You had that right in front of you last year.
They choked. I mean, that loss to the Titans was what did them in more than. I mean, the Bills game, it came down to a Deontay Hardy return, and really that was it. I mean, it was a special teams.
It did, and then it was Tyreek Hill not being himself and Tua not being able to make plays.
But instead of isolating a play or two in that game, you could go back to the Tennessee game and say, like, what are you doing losing to Tennessee? That was bad. You lost to Will Levis and Tennessee, and you were in first place. What are you doing? That was horrible. You can't do that if you're the Miami Dolphins. And I remember watching, that was the game. I remember watching that game, and when they lost that game, I said the Bills are going to win the division. I couldn't believe I was saying it because where we were last year when the team was 6-6, we were like, they're not winning the division. They're going to be lucky if they get to the postseason. Well, when Miami lost that game, I'm like, the Bills are going to win the division. That Miami's not a good enough team to win the division.
So you're still sticking with the 24 past the hour here. Meetings throughout the season, I guess you have to stick with it.
If that's his thing, that's his thing. I don't know if his teammate buys into it. I mean, some of what you saw in the in-season version of Hard Knocks last year, don't you get the sense McDaniel is a good orator and he's good in a room and he can command a room, but it felt like a lot of times when he was speaking to the team that the team was kind of checked out. Like, they just looked tired. They didn't really look like they were listening in on what he was saying. And I wonder if that message or if his messaging has gotten stale with his guys. It'll be something worth watching. I mean, I'm probably not very high on Miami, or as high as some may be, and I might be a little bit higher on the Jets than some might be. And as I've been saying for the last few weeks, I don't know. I won't be surprised if the Bills take a step backwards this year. I just think there's a lot working against them.
Well, how big a step? I think we all expect them to not match the number of W's. Or maybe not. Maybe they get to 11.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 8 or 9 wins and they miss the postseason, I'm not going to be surprised. I refuse to be surprised. Josh Allen is your quarterback, and you should have enough, you would think, to win the division. But it is the NFL, and guys will come gunning for you, and things change really quickly around here. So you have to be able to adjust. And that's the thing. Will defenses have Joe Brady figured out? And how quickly will it take for the NFL to adjust to what Joe Brady is doing with Josh Allen and no Stephon Diggs?
I've got another take here, Danger, and I'm not gonna say you were right, but maybe you influenced me a little bit. But then another story happened last night, and give me a minute here before you cast judgment on my take. Just listen to the whole darn thing, all right? Danger, you mentioned how you're out on the WNBA. I think I am too. Story about how the Chicago Sky players were being harassed, but now the videos come out, and you'd say, really? They're being harassed? Not, look, besides the point. Here's the point. This league is terrible at messaging. Horrible. They blew their chance, okay? Take, for example, the Buffalo Bills, okay, about messaging. We may not like it, but their messaging is the same. They have a vision and a course. The WNBA cannot control its narrative to save their life right now. You come to sports for an escape. This is veered off into discussions about race, sexism, privilege, inclusiveness. Look, it's all important. Don't get me wrong. But again, if I go into a pizza restaurant, hey, what would you like to order, sir, today? I'd like a pizza. No, you know what? The salad's better for you. No, I want pizza, okay? And if I watch a basketball game, or if I want to talk about a basketball game, no, but first let's talk about relations. No, I want basketball. That should be the messaging. And here's a different league. I'm not out on the WNBA. They got to figure this out. I let it cool off for a little while, and I'll check back.
It's funny. I remember when the NFL got really political. It was right around the time that we were starting our show 8 years ago. Colin Kaepernick and everything that was going on in the world.
Time out. Like, that was the night before the opener of our show. Like, we were going to have this fun show. We're going to, talk. We're the sports part. And then
sports talk different. We were going to do different sports talk in Rochester than what you were accustomed to.
And then that happened. And let's talk about police brutality and how it relates to the NFL. Like, whoa, okay, this is not fun.
I see the WNBA today, and it almost feels like they've taken I'm not saying that this is scripted or planned, but it feels so similar to where we were then with the NFL, with the difference being the NFL was established. The NFL had us already. They had an audience. Now, they took a dip when all of that was going on. We all remember, oh my God, the NFL ratings are down. It's like their ratings are down, but it wasn't down to the point where they were still the most dominant thing on TV. More people were watching the NFL than any other program on TV, even with the negative publicity and everything that was going on. So the NFL was established. It had been established. It had been already the most popular league in all of sports. The WNBA isn't there yet. They're just not there yet. They're getting better, obviously. We're talking about it, but they're just not there yet. So this comes at a time where you have the opportunity with a lot of new faces and new exciting stars to captivate an audience. And instead of us talking about the great play on the court, we're talking about the emotions and the feelings and the everything that you're right, we escape to sports for. We want to leave that baggage behind, the day's baggage behind. The world is a weird place. I like to watch sports because it feels certain. And when I see greatness, I'm in. I'm entertained. I can't wait for tonight's game 1 of the Celtics and the Mavs. I think it's going to be fantastic. When we know we have something of greatness in the WNBA, maybe I come back. But right now, all I hear is noise. I'm just hearing noise, and it's not the noise I want to hear about. I want to hear about the great play of, even if it's a player that isn't liked, even if it is Angel Reese did this, or this player did X, but I'm not hearing any of that. Instead, I'm hearing about, Angel Reese has embraced her role as a villain, and we're talking about privilege, and we're talking about race. And
then I'm reading oh my gosh, these Chicago Sky players were harassed because they themselves put this out there. They were harassed. And it was a little unsavory, but nobody broke the law
I
or
didn't
anything.
see it, so I don't know exactly what was done or said.
It was just somebody with a cell phone barking questions at the players about Caitlin Clark. That was it.
Yeah, they don't want to hear about Caitlin Clark anymore. I think they've made it pretty clear that they're done having the Caitlin Clark discussion. While we have a second here, Gino, not a take, but rather a salute. And I am not going to pretend to know Don Alhart. I've only met him once or twice in passing at different functions and charitable events throughout the city. And really that should tell you all you need to know is if you've run into Don Alhart, chances are it was at a charitable event or a function where something good was happening in the community. Tonight's his last broadcast.
Yeah.
And it's one hell of a career. A legacy that he is leaving behind. And while I haven't really had the chance to know Don Alhart, I did have an opportunity to meet and chat with his son, John. We both were speaking on a panel a couple of years ago, and John is a listener to the Sports Bar. He might even be listening right now. And we had a great conversation, just talking sports, just having some guy talk. And, I don't know if I brought up that I knew who his dad was, but you hear his last name, you're Don Alhart's kid, of course. And he's also very successful. And I guess if the measure of a man is the legacy you leave behind with your family, then Don Alhart is elite. He's an elite program. I'm not saying anything you don't already know what he's done. I try to think of who in our community has been more impactful through their work and their spirit. And I don't know that I can come up with anybody bigger than Don Alhart.
No. George Eastman?
Currently. Yes, currently. I mean, that's a legacy. His final broadcast is tonight, and I just think the guy's a role model for a lot of people to follow. So congratulations on an unbelievable career in Rochester. In my 27 years in Rochester, I can't think of somebody who's meant more to the community and done more to the community through his work through his spirit than on Al Hart. And that's it's kind of a bummer that it's an end of a legacy, but I know all good things have to come to an end.
There was one summer I worked over there, and you want to talk about intimidating going in. Like, oh my gosh, like you grow up watching Don Elhart, and now I'm filling in on sports tonight, and Don is... He couldn't have been nicer, Danger. Like, so super guy.
Nobody has ever said a bad thing about Don Elhart. You've never heard that. Which, think about how rare that is. You've never heard anybody say something negative about that man. That's a pretty good run. That's a pretty good run, and that's a role model for the rest of us to follow. Sad that this is his last day, but also hope he has the chance to enjoy his time. He has certainly earned it.
Well, and I'm going to be watching the tribute and everything else, but I'm sure this is going to come up that along the way, he probably had opportunities to leave Rochester. And look, I can kind of appreciate, like, hey, I like it here. This is good for my family here. And
it comes back to something that a friend told me a long time ago, and I turned down a job years ago when my family was young. My daughter.
Can I mention the market?
Yeah, it was Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Indianapolis. I had an opportunity to go work there. They gave me a contract. It was a lot of money, more money than I ever thought I could make doing this job, right? And I remember my wife being very supportive through the process of me going there, interviewing in person, nailing the interview, getting the job offer. And when I got the job offer, I said, "What do you think?" And she goes, "We're not moving." I'm like, "What do you mean we're not moving? This is an unbelievable." She's like, "What about me?" I'm like, "Well, okay. I mean, I know you're good. You can get a job in Indianapolis in this field. I mean, like, that's not a question." And she's like, "If we leave, you're going to kill my parents because you're taking their grandchildren away from them." I'm like, and so I heard that and immediately felt guilty. I'm like, God, I'm being selfish. I'm being a selfish jerk because I'm trying to be this alpha provider for my family and make as much money as I can with the skill that I have in the field that I have chosen. And I remember talking to a friend in the industry, a guy who helped get my foot in the door for this opportunity. And he said to me, "Yeah, listen, there isn't a single career success that will overcome a failure at home." And when he said that to me, it resonated. And I thought, well, I can die in Rochester. I'm okay with that. I'll stay here for the rest of my life. No problem. All good. Family's happy. Everybody's good. My kids have an unbelievable relationship with their grandparents. They love the life that we have. I love the life that we have. No regrets. And Don probably feels likewise. I'm sure Don has had plenty of opportunities through the years, but this is home. And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, that'll be tonight. That'll be something. Well, then you get the Celtics and Mavs tonight.
Sure do. Pretty big night there for our friends over at 13. All right, we got to get to Mike Mutnansky. Man, we used to talk to Mutt frequently when he was at our Odyssey Sports sister station, WEEI. Now, it's been a minute. Mutt is on the road, if I'm not mistaken, on his way back from Saratoga. Heading to Boston?
Yeah, so the Saratoga, the site of the Belmont, but we're going to talk about the Celtics here coming up tonight.
And now Mutt has his own Mutt Stack right now. It's a subscription. You subscribe to his newsletter. You can get his favorite plays. Mutt's got some great advice as far as what action you want to place on tonight's game as well. And he also does a podcast. We'll get caught up with Mutt and get all of the things that he's been up to since departing from WEEI. Really excited to have him back on with us. He's one of our old friends and one of the few guys out of New England that we can actually tolerate. And maybe we'll ask him about the Patriots as well while we have him. So Mutt will be joining us in a little bit. Don't forget, we'll be talking to Joe Yerdon from Bleacher Report here at 4:25 as well. And if you're just joining us in the sports bar, the breaking news, the news that Gene broke here less than an hour ago, the Rochester Americans have made a decision on their new head coach.
Yeah, so Mike Leone is the new head coach of the Rochester Americans. We'll talk about that coming up as well. 4:25, Joe Yerdon from the Bleacher Report joining us.
866-4FAN if you want to pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4326.
W239BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
It is official. The Rochester Americans have hired Mike Leone as their new head coach. Leone, 36 years old, has a background with the U.S. National Developmental Team. We'll talk to Joe Yurden from the Bleacher Report about this hire. That's coming up at the bottom of the hour. NBA Finals tonight, Dallas-Boston, Game 1. One of the storylines, Kristaps Porzingis, on how he's entering tonight.
I did as much as I could to prepare for this moment, but there's nothing like game minutes and game experience. It'll be tough, but to jump into the finals like this, but I did everything I could to prepare for it.
On the Major League scoreboard, Jays beat the Orioles 6-5, top of the ninth. Royals leading in Cleveland 4-3. No score in the second between the Mariners and the A's. Rochester Red Wings right now having a tough time in Worcester. They're down 13-4 in the eighth. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
18 games sounds great, but until you're the one that's going out there and putting the helmet on for 18 of those games, then come talk to me.
Dan Hurley reportedly met with his UConn players this morning to tell them that he has talked to the Lakers about their head coaching gig, but it's business as usual for now.
Because you got Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight.
So I like Boston in 6. I actually like Dallas, though, in Game 1. I think they're going to win Game 1 because this is what the Celtics do.
Mike Danger.
I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be as high on the Bills as everybody else is going to be.
Gene Battaglia.
And then I brought up, hey, which conspiracy theory do you believe in the most? I think that Kurt Schilling faked the bloody sock.
Who are the Chicago Cubs?
No, I'm sorry.
The Yankees win.
Amherst Hockey. Mike Leone, who's currently head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the United States Hockey League.
A month-long college football playoff feels right.
I don't like to talk about myself. Will you allow me just this one time? Gene's above sportsmanship.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Oh, the Amherst got their guy, Michael Leone, named the 34th head coach in Rochester Americans history. That was official from the Rochester Americans, as first reported on the Fan Rochester an hour ago. The Rochester Americans now have their replacement for head coach Seth Appert. We'll talk more Amherst hockey and more about Michael Leone when we're joined later this hour by Joe Yurden, covering the NHL for Bleacher Report, notedhockey.com. First, we have to welcome in one of our buddies. I mean, we haven't talked to Mutt in such a long time.
You remember the last time we talked to him? It was before the Win game.
Oh, the win
game.
That long?
That long.
Come on. No, it couldn't have been that long.
No, I'm telling you.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Mutt, what have you been up to this whole time, man? I mean, like, that feels like forever ago.
What's up, guys? How are you? Yeah, it was a pretty amazing game. A very high-scoring game there between the Bills and the Patriots in the win. How are things with you guys?
Mutt, we're looking forward to tonight, and we're like, well, we should give Mutt a call. Before we get your thoughts here on Celtics and everything happening in Boston sports, what you're doing right now, really cool. And Danger and I, shame on us, we've never been to Saratoga. So you're just leaving Saratoga right now, correct?
Yes, we had some business to take care of, but doing some prep work for this weekend. I do some writing right now, guys, at a website called muttstack.com. It's a newsletter that deals with Boston sports, sports betting, and horse racing. And as you know, it's a huge horse racing weekend. Did the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, 156 Belmont Stakes, first time been run at Saratoga, and pretty unique event for horse racing. And so I'll be curious to see how the city responds in Saratoga. As you guys know, one of the home of horse racing, certainly here in New England, and to have a Belmont Stakes there, a Triple Crown, and a really good race on tap should be very exciting on Saturday at about 6:45 or so.
Mutt, we've got so many different storylines going into Game 1 of the NBA Finals, and the one that I'm most intrigued by is how Boston fans will receive Kyrie Irving coming back into the Garden for an opposing team with everything on the line. I'm sure they'll be hospitable and polite, wouldn't they?
They should be as loud as humanly possible. Kyrie deserves every decibel of booing that he gets tonight at the Garden. This is a guy who has convinced people now, I guess, that he's changed. But, you look at the timeline, guys, of what happened in Boston. In the year 2, he showed up at a season ticket event there in October and looked up at the rafters and said, I can't wait to re-sign here. He's going to be a free agent end of the year. but basically told the fans there, I'm going to resign here. And then literally like 5 months later, he's at the All-Star game with Kevin Durant, mouthing Supermax contract and telling people, ask me July 1st. And he left the Boston Celtics high and dry, and he's had a tough time at the Garden coming back as an opposing player, and I suspect it'll be absolutely freaking bonkers when he takes that court tonight for that Dallas Mavericks team.
Mike, every Celtic fan I talk to just doesn't trust this team. I mean, it was relatively easy going through the Eastern Conference playoffs, but do you get that same sense when you're talking to fans up in your area there? And I think it all comes back to the coach there, for the Celtics.
Yeah, Joe Mazzulla has had not a rough go this year. He had a very good year, but there are questions about this team's ability to finish things off. Look, they were in a good spot a couple of years against the Warriors. Really last year, with no excuse to lose to that Miami team in the Eastern Conference Final, there are a lot of questions. Of course, the difference now is that they went out and made some huge additions. Kristaps Porzingis expected to play tonight, and it sounds like people that I talk to think he's going to be as close to 100% as possible coming off that calf injury. And Drew Holiday has been an absolute force. He's made people forget about Marcus Smart here in Boston. So I get, you're right. I think the people I talk to have the same questions, guys, about this team's inability to finish, but the roster fortifying that Brad Stevens did, I think they're in a great spot to win a championship against this Mavericks team.
What about Jason Tatum? I feel like I keep waiting to say, that was a Jason Tatum game. He's been consistent for the most part, but we still haven't seen Tatum have that one signature game that you can circle and be like, Tatum took over that one.
Yeah, during this playoff run, it's been more about Jaylen Brown. And Tatum, in that second series, he led the Celtics in every single category, basically points, rebounds, assists, steals. He was dominant. But through the entire playoff run, it's been Jaylen Brown. That's the knock on Tatum, guys, is that there are these games where, as a superstar, as a top-5 player, and he was named first-team All-NBA, he's a top-5 player by NBA standards, there are games where you forget he's out there. That cannot happen in this series against Dallas, against Luka, against Kyrie, when they're a huge favorite in the sports books to win. You can't have those quarter and a half stretches where he just sort of no-shows. And that's been his biggest issue, consistency and not those peaks and valleys. And hopefully we see it on a big stage because he has a chance now. People have been waiting for this. You're a top-5 player. Now go win a championship. Big expectations on Tatum. Consistency is going to be huge starting tonight there at the Guard.
Mike Mutnansky, Mutstack.com, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Mutt, we're very provincial here in Rochester, and one of our own is Jeff Van Gundy. Went to Nazareth, head coach at McQuaid Jesuit. Kind of go from the high school to being an NBA coach. And we kind of forgot that he was an advisor for the Celtics. And then the report, he's going to be joining the staff as an assistant next year. Mutt, is he the coach in waiting, could you see?
Yeah, you texted me that, Gene, and I see it differently. I see it as them saying to Jeff Van Gundy, look, if you want to coach again in the NBA, the way you're going to do it is sit on our staff for a year, we'll be really good, and someone's going to hire you. I view that as Van Gundy telling the Celtics, I'm ready to get back into coaching, and a chance to be part of a team that should be, theoretically, these guys are all under contract for the next couple of years, should be really, really good. So I didn't view it as if they lose this finals, Joe Mazzulla is out. Joe Mazzulla is in his early to mid-30s. Brad Stevens loves him. He took over a team that Ime Udoka left him high and dry with his off-the-court issues. And he was not good last year. I'll tell you what, he's been better this year. He's called a couple of key timeouts during this playoff run. So I view it more as Van Gundy has told Stevens and Mazzulla, hey, I might want to coach again. So they're like, well, go be on the bench, and then eventually – you guys know how it works. If you're a good assistant on a good team, guess what happens? You get fired. So that's how I view it. I'm a huge Van Gundy guy. He was awesome on TV. I miss him calling these games on ABC, ESPN. Wish he was going to be there tonight. And I hope he ends up getting a job because I like his attitude. I like. I'm forgetting the book now. I apologize. Just read a book on that '90s Knicks team, and he came across like an absolute lunatic. Sleeping in his office there with the Knicks. I'm a Van Gundy guy. Hope he gets a job.
Mutt, you're going to refresh my memory here. When did online sports wagering become legal in Massachusetts? Recently, correct?
Just last year. Last January was legal. So it's only been a year plus, and I think when I looked this morning, actually, the Massachusetts is a top 5 or top 6 state in the country for sports betting after a year plus.
And the stuff you're doing at muttstack.com, there is some sports gambling in there. We've got some plays that we can talk about for tonight's game as well.
For me, I made it very simple. I write about sports betting as it relates to, for the sports bettor in general. I feel like, guys, and maybe you feel differently, but, I feel like you have to have some advocates out there sort of fighting for the the sports bettor and the horse player. And I write about the things that impact you as a player, where there are good deals, where there's good options, what books are treating the player the right way. As far as this series, one bet that I made a couple of days ago, and I'm not sure if it's still available at those odds, but I bet the Celtics at -130 to win Game 1 and also win the series. There's a great history of teams with a 10-plus day layoff to come out and win Game 1, and I'm not going to lay -225, whatever it was for the series. But if I like them in Game 1 tonight off the layoff and I like them in the series, I thought -130 made a lot of sense. That's one bet for sure I have made. I'm not sure where the market is on that the last couple of days, but if you like them in Game 1 and you like them in the series, you might as well team that up and get much better odds on the Celtics to win the entire thing.
Yeah. By the way, I noticed you claimed Saratoga as part of New England. I always thought that is that area part of New England, Mutt?
No, see, here's why I do it, guys, because New England, we don't have any racetracks anymore. Again, this is a different conversation for a different show, but Suffolk Downs, gone. Rockingham Park, gone. Lincoln Park in Rhode Island, gone. There is no – this is for my listeners and my readers in Boston, the closest track you can go to watch thoroughbred racing is in Saratoga. And when you go there and you see the parking lots at all these places, like there are hundreds of Massachusetts plates. There will be hundreds, if not thousands, of Bay Staters making their way, because it's actually easier to get to Saratoga than it is to get all the way down 95 to Elmont, New York, down at Belmont Park. So I know it's in upstate New York, but for racing purposes, it is part of New England. I'm calling that now.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, and by the way, we have a track. We should we shouldn't sleep in the fact we have a track right here in Rochester.
No question.
Who do you like in this race? Certainly, people can go check out the pod and read at muttstack.com. But give us some winners here, as we'd like to kind of dabble when we get to a race like this.
Well, it should be a great race on Saturday. 6:41 is the post time for the Belmont Stakes, race number 12. Sierra Leone, the number 9. Is the horse to beat, but the horse is 9-5. Like, who wants to bet a 9-5 horse? Who wants to have some guy come on your show and tout the favorite? He's the most likely winner, but the way I'm going to get paid in this race is with the number 2 horse, Resilience, for Bill Mott. He's 10-1 on the morning line. He ran in the Kentucky Derby, guys. He started at post position 18, so he's way out wide, and actually ran a really good race. You go back and watch that Kentucky Derby, Resilience, from way out at the 18 post. Ended up running a really good race, part of the speed, and faded late. Bill Mott, the trainer, wasn't sure he'd run back, and this horse had a great workout last weekend. And the second the workout was over, Bill Mott said, we're sending him there. He won the Wood Memorial. He's going to love the 1.25 miles, which is the race distance this year for the Belmont Stakes. You can't run 1.5 miles at Saratoga. And he's going to be position 2 versus 18. So for me, I think the most likely winner is the number 9 horse, Sierra Leone. My price horse that I'm going to bet to win, and in the exactas with the number 9, is going to be number 2, Resilience. And Equitarian, the number 5 horse, also 12-1, with Johnny V and Todd Pletcher. I thought he had a very good Peter Pan. So in some order, mine would be 2, 9, 5 in the Belmont Stakes. But if Resilience runs first, second, and potentially even third, we will have some winning tickets in the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga on Saturday.
Mutt, we mentioned at the top that the last time we spoke was the win game against the Patriots, and a lot has changed with the Patriots, obviously, since that game. I wanted to get your take on the direction of the organization now post-Bell Belichick, and with Gerard Mayo now at control. Like, how long of a leash do you think the Crafts will have with Mayo and with their new quarterback in Drake May?
Yeah, this is where I ask you guys nicely to go burn all the tapes where I came on and touted Mac Jones as a good quarterback on your show, which I did. I think they did Mac dirty, and I know I said that with you guys before. They never gave him any offensive weapons, so we'll see how he pans out in Jacksonville. So I'm gun-shy on saying Drake May is going to be the guy because I thought Mac Jones is going to be. I think as a whole, I'm pretty cautious right now because this team, and Bill Belichick deserved to get fired, move on, however you think it went down. They struggled so much recently, and Bill struggled so much in the draft offensively that I like that they moved on. But the organization, guys, they're doing a lot of stuff that, I don't know, we're different than Belichick, new organization, new attitude. Like, they've really made an effort to distance themselves from the Hall of Fame coach, and I'll admit I'm a little bit cautious right now. It seems like it's a very much a collaborative effort, and they're bragging about that. But, you guys, in radio, TV, sports, when there's not one guy making the decision, everyone feels they have a vote. Sometimes that can get confusing. So I'm hopeful that they got the right quarterback, but not convinced they have the right quarterback out of North Carolina. And I will admit that I'm a little bit skeptical about the approach and this whole kumbaya, Bill's gone, we're all happy, collaborative thing they have going on right now at Foxborough.
Mike, I was a little surprised that there wasn't more interest in Bill Belichick once he hit the market. If for nothing else, he's arguably the best coach of all time. Why not sit down and pick his brain? And maybe he's not the guy for the job. So my question is he coaching in the NFL next season or the season after?
I think he eventually gets one more job, but I think the reason why he doesn't have the Atlanta job is Bob Kraft. I think ESPN did some great reporting, Seth Wickersham and company, that Arthur Blank reached out, and Bob Kraft basically said, you can't trust this guy. And when that happens, Bill Belichick's not going to get a job. So there is some real, I don't know if you guys watched the Brady roast, there is some real animosity right now between Bill Belichick and Bob Kraft. I mean, they made Belichick guys do this handshake press conference saying everything's happy, great, Bill's leaving, but hey, it's still on good terms because Kraft was so worried about the fan reaction. And then a month later, it turns out he was burying Belichick to the Atlanta Falcons. And so next Wednesday, Gillette Stadium is Tom Brady night. 6/12/24. They're selling tickets for this. They're going to honor Brady for hours at Gillette. Is Bill there? Is Bill and Kraft, are they sitting together with the Krafts? This is going to be an off-the-field little drama to watch in the midst of the NBA Finals, how this thing goes down next Wednesday at Gillette.
All right, so while we're talking about betting, that's the bet that Gino and I have going. He won't be coaching in the NFL next year. We bet a box of wine because Gene's a big box wine drinker. I might dabble a little bit as well. And so my take is that Belichick, who's, in the limited that we've seen of him, whether it be in the draft or whatever he's been doing on ESPN, he's pretty engaging as far as a media analyst. And I have a feeling that will be a thing that he can actually excel at here in the twilight of his career rather than get back on a sideline. Gino thinks that Dallas is calling.
Gino's right. Gino, get in the box of wine now.
Yes.
And here's the reason why. Don Shula's record. I am convinced he wants that record for all-time wins, even if that means taking a job that he doesn't really love next year. He'll be good on TV. He was good with McAfee in the draft. I'm with you guys. I was surprised how good Bill was on the draft with McAfee. I thought McAfee did a good job setting him up in that format. He'll be good with the Peyton Manning team. I get it. But, he wants that record. He was willing to go to Atlanta to get it. Give Gene the box wine now. Whatever Franza flavor he wants, put it in the fridge there at the office because Gene is going to be the winner of that bet.
Mutt, I hate to correct you, but that's actually Andy Reid's record, okay? It's not really Don Shula's record. That's Andy Reid's record that he'll be chasing if he decides to come back on and that might be a little bit too much for him to overcome. He might have to stay in that McAfee role and make his appearance on a weekly basis or join the Mannings on the Manning cast where it's nice and cush on a Monday night rather than up and down a sideline.
Yeah, I think there's too much smoke there. He's not going to leave his coaching legacy with what happened there with that terrible handshake press conference at Gillette. And it's a good thing. This is not a negative, but it's his ego. He's the greatest coach of all time, greatest coach of the modern era. He is not going to end like that. He may not win more Super Bowl. I'm not saying he's going to win wherever he goes, but he's not going out like that. No shot. No shot.
Mike Mutnansky, our favorite, joining us in the sports bar. And for anybody that wants more horse racing info, some tips, and certainly takes on Boston sports, tell everybody about Mutstack there, Mike.
Yeah, Mutstack.com, weekly newsletter, weekly column, the Friday 4-pack, Boston sports, Boston media as well, if you want to follow the media stuff, right about the radio stations there in town, and certainly for the big Triple Crown races, for the Travers up at Saratoga in the summer for Breeders' Cup. Write a lot about racing at Mutstack.com. Free to subscribe. We will not ruin your inbox. I promise you that. You can just follow me on X/Twitter as well at Mike Mutnansky. Post a lot of thoughts on the races there. And about Boston sports. We're busy tonight for Celtics Game 1. Hopefully, should be a good one at the Garden.
Mutt, it is a great, great joy to hear your voice and to have you back on with us here in the sports bar. I hope we get the chance to do it again soon. Travel safe, bud.
Anytime you guys want me, you know my number. Love to come on. And Gene, congrats on that box wine win.
Thank you much. I will. I'll share with you if you come to Rochester.
Okay, that's fine. You know what, Gene? You can say Mutt is on your side on this one, and I will say Mutt's also the guy that said Mac Jones is going to be a good quarterback for the New England Patriots. He's been wrong before.
It wasn't because I agree with him, though. Like, they did everything wrong in terms of the development of Mac Jones, to the fact that they put in a defensive line coach as the offensive coordinator. That was the coup de grace. That's going to be one of the storylines. It's up to Bill Belichick. To your point, if he likes this, if he feels comfortable. I always thought Cowher would get in, but he's talked about this once you realize, wait a second, I can just live life and enjoy. But Mutt has the same reason I do. He is bound and determined to get that Don Shula record. Why would he have
Andy Reid record? It will be Andy Reid's record before it will be Bill Belichick's record.
How many wins does Andy Reid have right now?
He's on pace to beat Shula's record. I want to say
284.
Yeah, I want to say he's beating Shula's record within 5 years. Right?
Yeah.
And so, and Belichick is how far behind?
Belichick is 284.
Yeah.
Belichick is at 333.
And the record is?
It's a few more than that. I forget.
Yeah. I think it's Andy Reid's record. I think Belichick can come back, but it'll be futile. It'll be like, oh, well, nice try, but plus, greatest coach of all time. I'm not calling him the greatest coach of all time. I can't do it.
Who is that in your book? Bill Walsh, for all the people that he fostered? And
I think if your legacy is the coaching tree that you develop, the guys that Bill Walsh changed the game, one, with his offense. And then when you think about everybody that branched off and the branches of the branches, it all started with Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh, to me, is the greatest NFL head coach of all time.
The fact that Belichick has won different ways. And Shula did this too. I mean, you won defensively. You won over the top. You reinvented that.
I think Shula's a better coach than Bill Belichick. Shula did more. I mean, obviously won more than anybody, but he did more with less, especially at the end when Marino was like when he lost. Shula, the way Belichick ended his time in New England, it just became clear and obvious that he was the benefactor of having the greatest quarterback of all time.
That was his mistake. Stayed 1 or 2 years past the expiration, to the point where we're wondering last year, is he going to get fired?
He got fired.
Essentially.
Deservedly so.
Yeah.
Horrible season for the Patriots last year. Really nowhere to go but up. Let's see if they can with Gerard Mayo at the helm. Joe Yerdon covers the NHL for Bleacher Report, covers the Buffalo Sabres for Noted Hockey. And we've got some breaking Amerks news as we have a new Amerks head coach replacing Seth Appert. We'll learn more about our guy, Gino. Michael Leone's Italian.
Who does he look like? He's a young guy, 36. Headshot a little scruffy.
I'm getting rich-eyed. Why am I getting rich-eyed? I see rich-eyed when I look at Michael Leone. Oh, I don't. Come on.
Rich, where are you getting that?
I just see. He looks like rich-eyed to me. I don't know why.
Well, look, I'm looking at this crop. I don't know if it's quite Seth Appert hair. It's a good headshot, though.
It's not bad. It is kind of Lego-ish.
Yeah.
It does look like hair you could pop off, leave on your bedstand, pop back on. Yeah, it is Lego-ish hair. Seth's Lego hair is fantastic. We'll get to Yerdon next, and we'll talk more about the new Amerks head coach here on The Fan. 866-4326 if you want to pull up a stool.
You're listening to update.
It is official. The Amerks have hired Mike Leone as their new head coach. Leone, 36 years old. He has a background with the U.S. National Development Team. We'll talk to Joe Yurden from the Bleacher Report coming up next here in the Sports Bar. NBA Finals tonight. It's Game 1. Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla giving an update on Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, he's working on it. I thought he's done a great job working hard, getting to this point. Has gone through practices, and we still have to see how he responds, each day to the what he's doing from a physical standpoint. So I think he's on pace, and he's doing everything he can to get back.
On the Major League scoreboard, the Jays beating the Orioles 6-5. Seattle is up on Oakland 1-0 in the third. Royals over the Guardians 4-3. Yankees tonight hosting the Twins. The Red Wings got beat up in Worcester 13-4. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Straight up, no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
You can hear the Fan Rochester where we sound our best, the free to download Odyssey app. We're also streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. Find us at the Fan Rochester. We welcome in Noted Hockey.
Yeah, Noted Hockey. Before we get to the Amerks talk, Mike Manansky joining us earlier and putting Saratoga in New England? Joe, you're a Capital District native. I mean, would you ever consider Saratoga a part of New England?
Absolutely not. No part of Eastern New York, upstate New York, any of that is in New England. No part of it.
I love it. See, we got a little controversy brewing. Now, Mutt claims that if you go to Saratoga, because it really is the closest racetrack for any New Englander to go to now, that you will see hundreds and hundreds of Massachusetts license plates in the parking lots at Saratoga.
Oh, that is 100% true. But you would see those too before Foxwoods and those casinos open up in Connecticut, with everybody going to Turning Stone and around Syracuse too. So, New York providing some gambling exploits for our friends in New England to come and enjoy. But,
I heard that. Like, no, stop.
Good that Joe could put a finer point on it for us, being from the area.
Imagine you're setting up a vacation. It's like, hey, we're going to New England. It's like, oh, that's great. Where are you going to go? Albany. No,
they didn't claim Albany. They claimed the good part.
They don't want to claim Albany, Joe. Let's get it straight. They want to claim Saratoga. Saratoga's nice. New England wants to claim ownership of the nice part of the Albany area.
You want one, you take them all. And if you don't want them all, you don't get any.
I love it.
I love this. Joe Yurden, Bleacher Report, certainly covering a lot of Sabres and Amerks hockey. Joe, your initial reaction, Amerks have a new head coach in Mike Leone. Your thoughts?
I think this is going to be a good hire. It falls in line with a lot of how the organization's done things for the last, 10, 15 years, about how they like to draw things up. Probably more like in the last 10 years or so, but falls right in line with how they, when they hired Seth Appert out of the program and brought him in. This is a guy coming through similar steps, similar background. Obviously, he was the head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the USHL the last couple of years, so that's a strong development background. Bringing young guys along, coaching them up, getting them ready for professional hockey. And reading about him when he was hired to Green Bay and catching up on that. When we saw the rumor pop up a little bit yesterday from Brad Schlossman out in North Dakota. Reading up on him and everything that he tried to instill in Green Bay with turning that team and that program around. Well, I checked every box with what they like to see here in Buffalo, talking about compete, effort, being the toughest team to play against, all that. That checks every single box for what they want to do in Rochester. So this makes sense. And he's a young guy. So it's very humbling for me to talk about guys who are younger than I am becoming head coaches in places. So I should get used to this by now, but but yeah, no, I think this really checks out. This checks a lot of boxes, and I mean, obviously, we'll see how it works out. But I think this is a good hire.
Talk about the youth again, because I think that there are probably candidates out there that were more seasoned, more experienced, and frankly older than what we have coming in with Leone. But is there something to be said for a younger guy? And when you look around, not just the AHL, but the NHL, is there something to be said for having a younger guy behind the bench to better relate to some of these players, especially these younger players who are coming into the league as hot shots and need to kind of be shown how their roles need to be modified in order for them to be the best professional they can be?
Yeah, and it helps to have somebody that's at least identifiable to that, generationally, so that they have maybe more of an understanding of where, how these guys think, how they operate, how they do things and whatnot. Because, we've seen a lot of times throughout pro hockey, not just, AHL, but like all over hockey everywhere, where you have older coaches that, maybe, they do things the old way, the tougher way, whatever. And some, that has a finite window of success if it catches. But if it doesn't catch, it falls apart almost immediately, and then you're digging yourself out of a hole. I think with a guy that's young, you're bringing him in, and he knows the mindset. He knows where these guys come from, and it sounds so like weird to talk about how like coaches back in the day was like, well, we met face to face, or we talked over the phone, blah blah blah. And now it's all these guys, they just text now, and that's the way it goes. It's just what life is. But like being able to kind of identify with that, it cuts out a lot of the communication issues and, the generational gap stuff where you just kind of want to make things as smooth as possible and cut down on any layers where there might be some miscommunication. So it helps out. And to have a guy that kind of understands where everybody's coming from is a big bonus, because you don't want there to be, barriers, not boundaries. You want boundaries, but you don't want barriers in front of you when you're trying to get through to these guys. So it's a good thing, because this is going to be a young team. I mean, this was a young team last year. They're going to be young, even younger, if not as young again this year. I mean, when we talk about like Michael Mersch being like the elder veteran, that's bonkers to me to think about, because he's not old. So, but you're going to have more, younger guys coming into this team next year, and having a younger coach that kind of gets it and understands and has just been in that role where, he's been bringing young guys along. I mean, that's about as good as you can get.
Joe, you're in Bleacher Report joining us as the Amerks put out the official release, making it official. Michael Leone is the new head coach, and Danger and I are reading it, scanning it. Okay, no mention about the assistants here. So, and not that we expected that, but what are your thoughts on that? Because certainly thought they had two decent assistants. So where does this leave Vinny Prospel and Nathan Pache, in your opinion, Joe?
I think they're going to stick around, and I think that's a good thing for them, because I know Vinny was coaching a little bit in Europe beforehand, but coaching, getting your feet under you here in North America and coaching here is a little bit different. And Nathan Pache is starting the next wave of his career, going from player to coach. So, I'm sure that they were talked to maybe about the lead job, but you kind of want to get an idea of how far along they are with their own coaching and where they're at. And I think if they, unless Mike Leone wants to bring in different guys, that's something else entirely. But I think with Nathan and Vinny, I mean, they're very good assistants, and they're guys that love being in Rochester. So I'd imagine that's going to work out the same way. And if there's a change, then okay, then I'll give us something else to discuss. But I don't see that being an issue as far as bringing in somebody to put over the top of them. If there's an issue, maybe it's just because Mike Leone's a little is a younger guy, but I mean all these guys are kind of out of the same generation as far as I can tell. So I can't really see that being an issue. But everybody's a professional. But Nathan's been a Rochester guy for as long as I can remember here. But I get it. But I can see this just being being the right thing to keep some continuity.
Well, and I also think if you look at this and examine it, I mean, it's pretty clear that Seth Appert had something to do with this decision, and probably had a lot of insight and input as to what direction Jason Karmanos and Kevin Adams would eventually go. And a big part of that, I would imagine, would be, hey, can he work with the two guys that were behind the bench with me last year, because they're ascending as well, and you do want that continuity. You think Seth Appert was involved in this search and offered his input as well, correct?
If he wasn't involved directly in the search, he was certainly contributing thoughts along the way in the process. Because Mike Leone, I mean, Leone's background, he's coming out of the USHL, but like he was a USA program guy, and the connections run deep there with anybody who's ever coached there. I mean, you see some of the names of the guys that Mike Leone worked with at the program, and some of them are the same guys that Seth worked with when he was there. John Robleski, guys like that, where everybody comes from the same kind of mindset, the same sort of way to prepare, and the way they coach and how they handle things. So yeah, it would make a lot of sense if Seth had a lot of input into that, but selecting somebody who has that kind of background, that's kind of how the Sabres organization has worked for a while now. I mean, even before Kevin Adams' time, the USA Hockey Network of sorts is a group where they've not heavily relied on, but they've leaned on that to find people to help come up through the program, come up through the team and get them ready to be pros.
Hey, Joe, I mean, does this come with some risk? And I'm just asking it this way. It's great that he has all this experience with the developmental team. It's great that he was a head coach in junior. Like when Seth came in, he was running a big-time program at RPI for how many years? Like, this is a level that Mike Leone has never reached as a player or as a coach, and now you're going to be the head coach here? What risk is there in this move?
There's certainly some risk, because he wasn't at Green Bay terribly long. I mean, he was there for 2 years coaching. I think it was 2 years, 3 years.
Also the GM, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
When you're in that level, like that's not uncommon. But I mean, yeah, there's certainly risk. But I can remember us having a lot of these same kinds of conversations with Seth, because people would look at the record he had at RPI and be like, that's not so great. One NCAA tournament appearance. What are you going to do? But that was the RPI situation was a very interesting, particular one to deal with on many levels. But the way he came through USA Hockey, that and the success that he had with those teams there was kind of like, oh, all right, this guy can do it. And I see the same thing. I see the same kind of trajectory with Mike Leone, because Green Bay was in a pretty rough spot before he came in. They weren't having a lot of success, and junior hockey is it's a different sort of way that you build teams and whatnot, but it's sort of the same. But he was able to get that team turned around and back into the playoffs and back being a more successful team in the USHL, where that takes a lot. It takes a lot to do that, because you're competing pretty hard with everybody else for players and trying to win games and the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, to say it's not a hiring without risk would be wrong. There's certainly risk, but it's a big step up. Don't get me wrong, but I don't look at this as being terribly different than hiring maybe somebody out of college who might be a younger guy that's had some success, and you're like, okay, let's see what you can do. It's not dissimilar to that. But I think, sometimes if you're looking for, fresh eyes, fresh blood, but somebody who can get the job done, I think that's a good thing, as opposed to, maybe, dipping back into the pool for some guys that have a lot more experience, because, I mean, let's be real about this. The Amerks have done that for a long time, and there wasn't a lot of success with that a lot of times.
Joe, we had your Maintenance Day co-host Lance on with us earlier in the week, and he was candid in sharing his displeasure with the NHL scouting combine this week and having to cover it. What? Paint a picture for us. What's Buffalo like when the NHL combine comes to town? What's it like covering it? And if you're a fan, is there anything there at all? Or is it just the NHL really, really needs to step up their game in terms of trying to turn this into the kind of event that the NFL has turned it into? And even the NBA, to a degree, has made more out of their combine than what the NHL has.
Everybody wants to see on-ice testing at the combine, and I get people wanting that to kind of add another layer of attention and something to kind of bring some hype to it. But I look at it this way: the Memorial Cup just got over the weekend, and you're talking a week later, guys that played a 60 whatever game season and the entirety of their conference playoffs and then the Memorial Cup, and then bringing them in here to be like, all right, buddy, time to hit the ice. We got to see how fast you can get around the rink. That doesn't sound like a good time to me if I'm 17 or 18 years old. And the injury risk that goes into it, you don't want guys killing themselves out there to get the best time for wheeling on the ice or whatever. But, as far as the entirety of at least the day that we get to do stuff on Saturday, where it's, the guys are doing most of the testing and they got to do the wing gate. So, some of the guys are barfing and whatever. I get it. But it's, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that combines aren't exciting, period. Even the NFL one's fun because you got the 40. Okay, great. That's neat. You have some bench press. Okay, whatever. But I don't know. I look at it as this is the last step before you're going to do the draft. Everything that's exciting, that's interesting about it, happens in every game that they played beforehand this season. To make this more of an attention-getting event, I think would just be kind of blustery, really, because it is what it is, and there's not really a whole lot to do with it. It's great for attention, but it's just we have so much stuff going on here in the last couple weeks. We're talking the combine's the same day as Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final, which that's kind of the schedule maker's fault on that one. Considering there's been a week between the end of the conference final to now, but it's like a mad dash to get to free agency and to get everybody to the cottage for the summer. So it's look at this. We're talking Cup final. If that goes 7 games, that Game 7's what, the 24th of June?
Yes,
I think. And then the NHL awards are what, the 27th in Vegas, and then the draft is the 28th and 29th, and then everybody's getting the heck out of town, and free agency starts July 1st. You do for people covering teams that didn't make the playoffs, like us in Buffalo. We've been quote unquote doing nothing since April or in May. In the case of the Amerks getting the playoffs, it's great, but we've been doing nothing for a long time, and then it's all right, time to cram for the end of the year. Just here's all the homework that you need to be doing. Do it all now. Okay.
Yeah, they don't. So
it's annoying from that perspective, but I don't know. I look at it. It's this is just kind of part of the job. You just got to be ready, and it can be annoying, but every job's annoying.
Joe, I want to ask you about the Stanley Cup Final here, but I'm going to do it in a different way. Edmonton, Florida. I want to ask you about the TV ratings because that's usually the barometer of where the sport is at, and traditionally, when a Canadian team is in, it's ratings poison. For the general sports fan, you look at Montreal, Tampa, nobody was into it. Ottawa, Anaheim being the worst ever. But you have a couple other factors here, obviously. One being, hey, a big platform. It's all on ABC. It's right there. You don't have to be searching for whatever NBC was putting out there. The other being Connor McDavid. Is that enough of a curiosity? Where do you think the American sports public is going to be at here with this Stanley Cup Final between Edmonton and Florida?
I'm really curious to see because, anytime a Canadian team's in there, it just doesn't fly. That goes even for regular season games. I used to get kind of upset when, even working at NBC when, they would just avoid having any Canadian teams on TV ever. And it was just kind of that's a chunk of the league, man. Some of these teams are good. You might want to get them on there, and then they would never be on. And it's okay, well, great. If this was New York and Edmonton, I think you're talking about a big cash in because Giant City against best player in the league. I don't think this is going to win too many people over, even though it's McDavid. And he's brilliant to watch. He's fantastic. People should watch just to see him. But he's been in Edmonton now for 8 years, I think.
9.
8 years.
This is year 9, yeah.
9. Yeah. So it goes back to when everybody thought people foolishly thought the lottery was rigged to get McDavid to Edmonton. I'm like, no, guys, they would have rigged it to get him to literally any other place than Edmonton to make it work better. But I don't know. It's great for hockey fans because this is going to be a fantastic series. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think it's going to go far, but I think for the casuals, I mean, maybe the casuals they've heard about Connor McDavid. Maybe they've seen some highlights come through their social media and they're like, hey, what's this about? But it's not like, it's the classic, like Monday Night Football, Edmonton, Florida, Stanley Cup. Like as soon as people hear Edmonton, they're like, wait, what, who, where?
Right.
Which that's unfortunate, but I mean, the Oilers have been kind of irrelevant for a long time now. So it's not Gretzky's Oilers anymore. Gretzky's on TV talking about them.
A lot of travel between these two teams, too, when you talk about this series between Edmonton and Sunrise. Which direction are you leaning for this series, Joe?
I'm leaning on Florida, and maybe it's because I've watched them so much this year, and I've seen the way that they've played and how that all goes. So much about Edmonton, I'm like, I don't know. Like, you watch McDavid, and he's incredible. But there's still a lot of games where I'm like, I don't know if these guys have got it. And they keep proving me wrong, which I guess that's part of the deal. But I look at Florida and, like Matthew Tkachuk hasn't blown up. He hasn't had like a monster playoff, but he's still been really good. The defense is playing fantastic. Bobrovsky's been awesome. But to me, it's Barkov.
Yes.
And Barkov has shut everybody down. I mean, and we're not talking about like, the Boston Celtics getting to the NBA finals, with each team that they played missing like one or two of their top guys. We're talking about Barkov shutting down Pasternak and Marchand and, shutting down the Rangers, shutting down Panarin. Like all these guys throughout, like him and his line are just doing work and making it miserable for these. I mean, the Rangers are a really good team. They're a really good team, and they scored a ton, and they play great defense, and they couldn't do anything with Florida. Shesterkin did everything he could to shut him down, and even games where he's giving up 1 or 2, it wasn't enough because Florida was still finding a way. It's really hard for me to shake that, especially because it's playoffs, but I've been saying it all playoffs. Don't take any penalties against Edmonton. You're asking to get beat if you're taking penalties against them. LA didn't learn anything the last 3 years against them. They kept taking penalties, they lost. Vancouver kept doing it, they lost. And Dallas again kept doing it, and they ran out of gas, and their PK failed them. So as long as Florida plays nasty, as long as they stay out of the box, and they've been mostly okay. Usually, if they go to the box, they're taking somebody with them. But they got to not be one-off penalties going against them, because dealing with those guys with the circus they can put on the ice, you're asking for trouble.
Joe, you're in Bleacher Report. What content, what can we check out here? Maintenance Day, everything, Joe, as we're waiting until Saturday here for Game 1 of the Cup Final.
Yeah, well, we'll have some combine coverage from yours truly this weekend over at Bleacher Report, talking with all the top prospects. It's going to be a lot of Macklin Celebrini discussions there, even though we know he's going to San Jose. But we'll talk to everybody that's going to be in town there, talking about that. We'll be doing a lot of Cup Final discussions, probably breaking down every single game and seeing if Connor McDavid can finally win one, or if Florida learns a lesson from last year. Be doing that, and then we'll be talking Sabre stuff, because I don't know, they're going to keep the 11th pick, or are they going to make a pick? They got to trade it. Like, they got to do anything in free agent? They're probably not going to do anything in free agent. But they got to do anything in free agency. There's a lot of things to go over. So yeah, lots to do before everybody heads to the cottage.
Appreciate the time, Joe. Have a great weekend.
Hey, you got it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Joe. Bleacher Report, noted hockey You can check them out on the Maintenance Day podcast with our buddy Lance Lysowski as well. Some great stuff there as we preview Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. That's coming up Saturday night. And, of course, learn a little bit more about Mike Leone, the new head coach of your Rochester Americans.
Is anybody picking Edmonton? I'm asking honestly. Like, it feels like this is the consensus, and usually when that happens,
Yeah.
Like, with the goaltending, with everything else. I don't know. Who's got the best line, the best tan? I don't think it's just pencil in Florida in 5 here.
I think Florida has an edge in goaltending, and for as good as McDavid is, Barkov is quietly like the best player on the ice for either team. I mean, he's just so good. He's scary good when he's out there. Both ends of the ice. Love that player.
You can't really bet the Conn Smythe because it's either Barkov or McDavid, right? Whoever wins the cup. And I can't imagine any other scenario.
We'll get to happy hour next in the sports bar, and we'll learn more about Mike Leone, new head coach of the Rochester Americans. We'll get into that and kind of revisit our conversation with Joe Yerdon from Bleacher Report, learning more about the new Amerks head coach, and also our conversation with Mutt from earlier this hour as well, looking ahead to tonight's Game 1 of the NBA Finals between Boston and Dallas.
Yeah, and we got time for your calls. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Oh, we haven't gotten to the NFL hot uniform talk, too.
This is some hot uniform talk.
You missed this?
No, I saw.
Okay.
I saw. The thing with hot uniform talk now is that it happens so often that I really need to be wowed. I really need to see, like when the Giants released their throwbacks and everybody wanted to puke because they hated them so much. I actually looked at them and like, I kind of like their homage to the Montreal Canadiens.
So this isn't a wow for you?
A lot of it has to do with the team that is.
Okay.
We'll be talking
Fair
about.
enough.
We'll get into that and more next. Happy hour on the way in the sports bar. 866-4326 if you want to pull up a stool.
WRCF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
It is official. The Rochester Americans have hired Mike Leone as their new head coach. He's 36 years old. A background with the U.S. National Developmental Team. NBA Finals tonight. Game 1, Dallas at Boston. Kristaps Porzingis on where he is at.
I did as much as I could to prepare for this moment, but there's nothing like game minutes and game experience. It'll be tough, but to jump into the finals like this, but I did everything I could to prepare for it.
Rochester Red Wings lost in Worcester this afternoon, 13-4. Same two teams tomorrow night in Massachusetts. On the Major League scoreboard, Jays over the Orioles, 6-5. Bottom of 5, Mariners up on the A's, 2-0. Royals defeated the Guardians, 4-3. Yankees tonight hosting the Minnesota Twins. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
18 games sounds great, but until you're the one that's going out there and putting the helmet on for 18 of those games, then come talk to me.
Dan Hurley reportedly met with his UConn players this morning to tell them that he has talked to the Lakers about their head coaching gig, but it's business as usual for now.
Because you got game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight.
So I like Boston in 6. I actually like Dallas, though, in game 1. I think they're going to win game 1 because this is what the Celtics do.
Mike Danger.
I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be as high on the Bills as everybody else is going to be.
Gene Battaglia.
And then I brought up, hey, which conspiracy theory do you believe in the most? I think that Kurt Schilling faked the bloody sock.
Who are the Chicago Cubs?
No, I'm sorry.
The Yankees win.
Amherst Hockey. Mike Leone, who's currently head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the United States Hockey League.
A month-long college football playoff feels right.
I don't like to talk about myself. Will you allow me just this one time? Gene's above sportsmanship.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
An update for you during happy hour as the Rochester Americans have made it official. We do have a new head coach for the Amherst, Michael Leone, inbound from juniors. He coached in Green Bay. Younger guy, but I'm waiting for somebody to give me a negative to this move. I don't know that there is one. I think it's a wait-and-see approach to learn more about him through the course of the next few days. And, of course, the real test will be when he's behind the bench and when the season gets underway.
Yeah, of course. It's an interesting dynamic, though, because, say, Prospo and Pacer are back when you have the boss that's younger than you. And he's 36 coming in. So, from that standpoint, it feels right. But the boss that he's never been at this level. So, is that a negative? Not necessarily, but it's something we should point out, though. Seth Appert was never the okay, that's fine, but he's running RPI hockey out in the ECAC. That's a big program. So Michael Leone, junior coach, GM and head coach, making the jump to the American Hockey League. Look, I'm excited to talk to him. I'm all for him. But like you said, wait and see here.
It's a no-brainer because he's Italian. Knew they were going to hire a guy like that. Can't wait. Exciting stuff. He has his introductory press conference with the media via Zoom, I want to say tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we get the chance to talk to him here in the sports bar sooner rather than later, learn more about the new head man for the Rochester Americans and learn more about his philosophies and his background and what his plans are with not just his coaching staff, but also this roster. We can expect to see maybe start to take shape here as we look ahead to a new Amherst season, which feels weird to say early in June. We're not wishing summer away, folks.
No. By the way, it's Hershey and Coachella Valley again.
The damn Bilesma down there at Coachella Valley.
I guess he's still doing it, right?
Yeah.
Got to make sure he gets that Calder Cup.
Yeah, good for him. NBA taking center stage tonight, game 1 of the NBA Finals. However, the big story isn't necessarily the preview of game 1 of the NBA Finals as much as it is the Lakers making it known they're close to hiring their new head coach. And it's a name that I think a lot of people, when they hear it, they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Do you see Dan Hurley leaving Connecticut to go be the next head man for the Los Angeles Lakers?
It's one of those moves that, Why didn't we think of that? Why isn't this done? Who put this in the ear of Adrian Wojnarowski? This breaks a little before 7 a.m. So somebody was holding on to this. Who had the agenda? I'm going to go over the candidates here. Was it UConn? UConn caught wind of this. They want to be ahead of it, because the portal is a thing. I'm not going to subscribe to that.
At minimum, if UConn put it out, it was to get Hurley to address it to his players and let his players know, his team know, hey, this is something I'm doing, which he reportedly has done. He did that earlier today.
What about Hurley's people? Like, hey, maybe I can get a better deal out of UConn if we put this out in the public eye right now that I've got one foot out the door and I really don't feel, or could it be? And remember, and before I bring this up, the NFL has a rule. And the rule is this, because the coaching interviews, they begin right after the season ends, but then the pause button is hit. NFL playoffs are going on. You are not to break any coaching news. And that's a rule that pretty much they live by. The Lakers putting this out on Game 1, Celtics and Mavs tonight. The NBA should be focused on this potentially great series. Let's talk about it and all the storylines. Old news. Let's talk about the Lakers.
Yeah. The more I think about it, I think it's Hurley. I think it's Hurley's people. Can't lose. If you're Hurley right now, you're in a win-win. You could go and be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, the winningest franchise in the NBA, right? You could not only coach the LA Lakers, but be the face of the LA Lakers within the next couple of years. I mean, as long as LeBron is there, obviously he's the face, but you become the face, the star of the team. Not LeBron, not AD. It's the coach. It's the guy that won back-to-back championships with UConn who becomes a star, and you let him make a team, build a team the way he did with UConn. You get guys that work in his system, and you have a kind of non-selfish, dare I even say, no-star approach. Like, I don't know. In the NBA is loaded with stars. You're going to have stars, but you understand what I'm saying. Guys that will work well in his system, guys that he can choose, guys that he can handpick to kind of put in the appropriate roles and let him flourish that way. And there's a school of thought that because he's had success at the college ranks, he won't succeed at the NBA level. We've seen that time and time again, whether you want to talk about Calipari or Pitino. There's dozens of people you could choose that have made that jump and reverted back to the college game. But really why I think it's Hurley is because, man, look, if it doesn't work out with LA, it sends a flare up in the sky to UConn. Like, I can be had. I just won back-to-back championships. Where's my multi-million-dollar extension? Where's my new contract? Rip it up. Let's go.
It's funny, like you brought up Calipari in his name, and of course when he left Kentucky or however that went down, like he was the number one. Oh, we're gonna go. Nope. But that loyalty, I guess, wasn't paid off by UConn. Like if I'm Bobby, I'm asking for what Calipari had at Kentucky, meaning the lifetime contract, essentially, like something that's ironclad, and I call the shots here. And I'll listen to this too. Running a program in men's college basketball right now, it is so close to what you have in the NBA. You may say it's even worse because you could have a totally different team from year to year to year. So from that standpoint, maybe will there be a better opportunity if he's ever going to make this jump at age 51?
This is the time. If you're Dan Hurley, this is the time. You just won back-to-back titles with UConn. Why not give a shot at the NBA right now?
Why not? Because you're not the chief decision maker in the Lakers. You're just not. Where is LeBron?
Not today, but you will be, because LeBron will not be with the Lakers that much longer.
Who is the strongest-willed head coach that LeBron has ever worked with or worked against? I mean, I don't know. Like if Hurley and LeBron would work. I mean, it doesn't have to work, but if you're keeping LeBron, then you got to bring in Bronny. So, there's some talk that this move is being made to prop up the career of Bronny James, because Bronny James, I think if we can all be honest, really isn't qualified for the NBA other than the fact that his dad is an all-time
But
great.
you hire a coach who's a known developer of talent.
Right.
And we know that LeBron is a Dan Hurley fan. LeBron hasn't been shy about sharing his thoughts on those championship runs, during those championship runs, loving the way that UConn plays, praising the coach in a series of different tweets. So LeBron isn't against Dan Hurley, or at least on the surface, it would appear as he and Dan Hurley would at least get along. But does Dan Hurley's style work with LeBron? Does Dan Hurley's style work with anybody in the NBA? I mean, the guy is intense. He's a yeller. You're going to have to really, really find guys that are okay with that. And not every professional athlete or professional basketball player is going to be okay with that style. So I think for the Lakers, what you get if you get Hurley is you get the face of your franchise post LeBron. You know that LeBron may not be with you much longer. In fact, that might be something that's holding this up. I wonder if Dan Hurley's saying, you know what, the Lakers' job is intriguing, and sure, I can coach LeBron, but I don't want to have my first order of business be drafting his kid, and we have limited draft capital as it is. Drafting a kid that isn't ready, I can develop talent, but I'm not that good. Like, what is this about? Is this about winning, or is this about satiating LeBron?
If it were any other team, you'd be, for what you have to pay LeBron, you'd be hoping LeBron opts out. Honestly, like at this age, Peter writing, and Dan Hurley going to the Lakers is similar to Billy Donovan going to OKC. I don't think it's going to happen this year. Well, if not now, when? Because if Hurley stays at UConn, again, I think it's because he's getting the lifetime contract.
Yeah, and that could be what this is about too. I mean, what he's done in college basketball, when is the next time we're going to see a guy go back-to-back, given the current landscape? It feels impossible.
It wasn't even a question UConn was going to.
They were so good.
They're unbelievably good.
Right.
Sidebar. Game 1 tonight. JJ Redick on the call.
Yeah, maybe a quick jab. Nothing, I don't think, in depth in terms of that's part of why I like this too. It mutes the conversation about JJ Redick becoming the next coach of the Lakers and being the head coach with his buddy LeBron. I don't love that. I want to believe that the Lakers are doing their best here to toe this line of satiating LeBron while also doing what's best, because the two are not aligned. What LeBron wants is not what's best for the LA Lakers. And so how do you keep your star player happy? You know, there's still time here for him to figure out how it all looks in the draft. And it's going to be fascinating here. I mean, let's face it, what happens off the court is going to be nearly as fascinating as what we see starting tonight with Game 1.
Game 1 tonight, Dallas and Boston. I'm gonna take the Celtics in 7, Danger. Normally these series don't go 7 anymore, but this is going to be. I have high expectations for this series.
I do as well. I'm going with, and I'm tailing PJ a little bit. PJ Glasser joined us yesterday. He said he likes the Celtics in 6, but he likes the Mavs in Game 1. When I saw the Mavs plus 6.5, felt like a lot of points. I know that that Boston can absolutely run it up on teams, and when they win big. But I'm going Dallas plus 6.5 tonight. Dallas with the points for Game 1.
It's funny. Mike Mutnansky going the other direction, who joined us earlier today, who for years did sports radio in Boston. Now he's got his newsletter, which you can sign up for. And Mutt says, hey, 10 days rest for Boston. And you look at the history of teams that get that amount. He expects Boston to be kind of fired up here tonight. And that Celtic crowd with Kyrie on the floor.
Yeah,
tonight.
That'll be a violent scene, I'm sure. A couple of little a few little side stories here. One, you mentioned it before we went to break here, before we started happy hour. Do we have hot uniform talk, Gene?
We do, Danger, and this is gonna keep us going here as your mandatory mini camps next week for the Bills. Some teams are winding down.
Feels like it's a little late in the offseason for hot uniform talk, yet here we are.
And this team unveiling what they call the coldest uniform in the league. The Winter Warrior is the official name of the alternate uniform for the Minnesota Vikings. The uniform celebrates Minnesota and the Nordic Vikings, says the art manager of the Vikings.
Who cares?
Minnesotans are battle-tested, resilient, and tough. We are not bonded. We are bonded by a cold, harsh winters.
No. Who cares?
Yeah, it's they're basically all white here. White helmets and just a little purple outline.
You had the opportunity to do it right. Like if you brought back the white on white that the Vikings used to wear with the purple helmet, I would accept that. They made the helmet white too. And it just doesn't look right to me. It looks off. I'm not into it.
I didn't know 2 alternate uniforms you can have now. So you can have a color rush and then something like this. This game, they're only going to wear it once, by the way, in time for holiday shopping, against the Bears, Monday Night Football, December 16th.
Are they playing that game outside since they bond over their cold winters together?
Yeah.
Oh, no, they're not. They're going to play it indoors in their cozy U.S. Bank Stadium. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. No, go back and play it at the University of Minnesota like you did a few years ago. Let's go that direction.
Oh, would this change your mind? Because apparently the numbers have a little bit of artwork. They call it the icicle drip.
Actually, I want nothing to do with something called an icicle drip. Sounds disgusting. I don't know gay slang. I don't know what that is. I don't know why we would have that on our uniforms. Nope, not into these uniforms, Chino. We also have the Utah NHL team down to 6 possible team names.
Yes.
The Blizzard, Utah HC, the Mammoth, the Outlaws, the Venom, or the Yeti. Gene, who has your vote?
I think it's the Yeti. All day, every day. It has to be.
It's got to be the Yeti.
The Yeti, you could have, you move aside whatever they call that thing in Philadelphia. You could have a really cool mascot.
Oh, Gritty.
Gritty. Like, the Yeti mascot. If they go soccer here, meaning Utah HC, some variants of that. No. I'd also be okay with the Venom. Here's why. Because that's kind of cool, and you can come up with a cool logo, and it does kind of link you a little bit, I guess, to the history of the franchise starting out there in Arizona.
Oh, I see. Okay. Is that the only reason why they would be called the Venom is because they...
I guess, unless I would think probably snakes are a thing in Utah, too.
The Blizzard feels like it could work, but you don't have a mascot. I mean, I suppose your mascot could be any cold weather animal. You could have a polar bear for your mascot if you're the Blizzard, but the Yeti feels right. The Yeti mascot feels right. The jerseys,
the alliteration,
the sweaters. It's the alliteration, the brand partnerships that you could create with the cooler company. Yeah. I like the Utah Yeti. That's got to be the winner. We'll see. They took over 500,000 votes from fans, so they're down to these 6. Round 2 of the voting now to select the winner. Fans are voting on this through June 20th, I guess. So that's the status of the Utah nickname, and I'm guessing they're going to have that all locked up here by the time you get to the NHL draft as well. So there's your update on... Oh, and speaking of the NHL, of course, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final coming up Saturday night. If you missed our conversation with Joe Yurden covering the NHL for Bleacher Report, he likes Florida. And, Gene, I don't know if anybody that we've talked to has said, yeah, give me Edmonton. I haven't heard it yet.
Is this quite on the level of the United States beating the Soviet Union? Meaning, wait a second, they're really good in hockey. We're running a bunch of kids. Cricket. United States in the World Cup beat Pakistan today?
Oh, who cares?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a big win for Team USA. Big win. Boy, that is... thrilling, exciting. I don't know one thing about cricket, dude. I don't know one thing. I have a friend who is dating a guy from England. He's actually Scottish, lives in England, and big into cricket. And therefore, she has now become big into cricket. She loves her Pittsburgh Steelers, and now she loves cricket, apparently. And she was telling me about how the World Cup of cricket was coming to the U.S. and they were still like building the facilities. The facilities weren't even done yet for this massive cricket tournament coming stateside. I guess it's going on right now, and because they're the host team, the Team USA gets the automatic bid, I would imagine.
If you had to say what is the most popular sport in the world that we as sports talk show hosts, you and I, really don't know anything about, cricket's number one, right?
I don't know anything about cricket.
No,
I couldn't tell you anything about. I know that it looks kind of like baseball.
Yeah, you got the big.
That's as far as I. There's a thing called a wicket. Maybe is it a wicket? Is that in cricket?
Yeah, and popular in India, and you have the movie where the two kids came over drafted by the Pirates.
I don't know that movie. What's that movie?
$1 Million Arm. Nope. See, no, that's a.
Oh, who cares?
Yeah,
I'll have to add it to the list. There is no list. I'm not watching that.
No,
movie. I'm not watching that movie. But she was excited. She said, "Wow, what a finish! What a finish!" She was texting me as it was ending, and I'm like, "Well, I guess that's a big deal." We took out Pakistan in the World Cup of cricket. I don't know what we're doing to celebrate, but not only do I not know what we're doing to celebrate, I don't know what happened. I don't know what went. I have no idea how they keep score. None of it. But good. Yay. Wave that. Yeah, I can't really hear what you're saying, Gene. I've got flags waving in my ear, flapping in my ear so loudly from Team USA's shocking upset of Pakistan in the Cricket World Cup. A round of shots on the way next.
Yeah, as we will set you up for tonight here, the NBA final, Game 1, Dallas and Boston. Some more details here on Bobby Hurley and Dan Hurley. Bobby Hurley played for Duke, long day. Red Sox, one player going on the injured list for a different reason. We will get into that as well.
A round of shots coming up, and you could have the last call. Final say in the sports bar at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
The Amerks make it official. Michael Leone is the new head coach of the Rochester Americans. He's 36 years old, coached with the Green Bay Gamblers of the USHL, has a background with the U.S. National Developmental Team. Tonight, it's Game 1 of the NBA Finals, Dallas at Boston. Joe Mazzulla is the head coach of Boston. He gives us an update on Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, he's working on it. I thought he's done a great job working hard, getting to this point. Has gone through the practices, and still have to see how he responds, each day to the what he's doing from a physical standpoint. So I think he's on pace, and he's doing everything he can to get back.
Rochester Red Wings fall today to Worcester 13-4. Orioles falling to Toronto 6-5. Other finals from the majors: Royals over the Guardians 4-3. Middle of the 7th at Seattle leading Oakland 2-0. Yankees tonight hosting the Twins. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The only way to take the Fan Rochester with you is the free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
I think they play different defense that we've seen. They do a lot of cross matches. So that's the way we got to figure out how to attack that.
Luka talking about the Boston Celtics defense. Game 1 tonight. The NBA Finals get underway, but that's not the lead story in the NBA.
Wow, leave it to the Lakers. Just say, nope, we're the Lakers. Move aside, Boston. Now, if Dan Hurley were to leave UConn, he'd be doing it on top. He is the first repeat champion in the NCAA in 17 years on the men's side. The 140-point differential this past tournament, that was the biggest all-time. But as we mentioned, this is not a done deal. The Lakers dismissing Coach Darvin Ham after a first-round exit. Ham was 94-70 in 2 seasons. He did have the team 2 years ago in the Western Conference Finals. Hurley, 141-58. That's a 709 winning percentage in 6 seasons.
709.
709.
I got you, Jim.
9 times.
Pick you up there.
Might be a little stretch there. He holds the NCAA tournament record for 12 consecutive double-digit victories.
I like this move if I'm a Lakers fan. I hope it gets done if I'm a Lakers fan. If you're a Lakers fan and they hire Dan Hurley, you now have your new face of the franchise. Dan Hurley is the star of this team. He's your coach, but given what he's done and what he's accomplished under the circumstances of college basketball, I think it's remarkable. I think he's one hell of a coach. I'm curious about whether or not his style will play with professionals, but I'd be excited if I'm a Laker fan.
When does this work, though? Like how many college coaches? And again, it's not an apples to apples because it's a different game.
I mean, it's different, right? Like Brad Stevens, Billy Donovan, yes. Then you look at guys like Calipari and Pitino and say, no, absolutely not, right? Like, I think it takes, I think if Dan Hurley does become the head coach of the Lakers and is the face of the franchise, does his ego get inflated? Like, I don't get a lot of ego from Dan Hurley. I certainly get a lot of ego from Rick Pitino and John Calipari.
Oh, right.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure he has ego.
I'm sure he does too, but I feel like he's basketball coach first, flair and all of that second. Like, it feels like Calipari and Pitino are a little bit about the showmanship.
And that's how you had to sell your program way back when. Right. And look, those guys both flopped in the NBA, so we'll see. I mean, again, it's not a done deal. All this, as we mentioned, overshadowing what we hope is going to be a great NBA Finals matchup. Dallas and Boston. Celtics are 6.5-point favorites tonight. Dallas plus 205 on the money line. All these games will be on ABC. They start the coverage at 8:30 tonight.
Oh man, 8:30. Yeah, that's when they start the coverage. That's when it tips. Tips at 8:30. I want to say.
Think
that's late for an East Coast start. I know it's a Thursday night and I sound like an old man. Go ahead, cue the old man music. I'm sorry. Look, I get too comfortable in my garage, my screened-in garage, and it's a nice, cool night, Gino.
Yeah.
I hope I can make it to tip.
I heard it's a cool night.
It is a cool night.
Just not appropriate.
No.
Red Sox in Chicago tonight to face the White Sox. 38-year-old reliever Chris Martin going on the 15-day injured list for anxiety. Martin telling team officials this week about his battle. He hasn't pitched since May 30th. He's got a 4.22 ERA and 21 appearances this season, says Red Sox executive Chris Breslow. I think we should all applaud Chris's willingness to speak up and confront the challenge head on.
I think Boston fans are dealing with it. I mean, let's look at how far we've come, right? Like it was, what was it, 4 years ago that Simone Biles basically said, I can't, mental health.
You know, it's funny. I was talking about that with somebody else because Simone Biles tore it up. We're going to revisit that whole storyline pretty shortly with the Olympics. Like, what do you remember about the Tokyo Olympics? That's probably the number one story, right?
Yeah, we remember Simone Biles pulling out for mental health reasons. And I remember some people, you know, being like, what the hell? Just get out there. You're not mentally tough. Get out there. What's wrong with you? I feel like we've come a long way, and this is kind of another chapter in the normalization of mental health.
If I had to nominate a city where it would be tough to be a reliever, even at 38, that's number one on the list.
Boston.
Right? Boston,
for
yeah.
sure.
Like, you're not getting any privacy. You're not getting anything. They're making note of your every move. Danger, are we as baseball fans on social media to blame for the retirement of umpire Angel Hernandez? That's what ESPN's Jeff Passan said on the Rich Eisen show. Seriously, like, we were the ones making those bad calls. We forced the issue.
Was it us? Was it really us? What, or was it just the fans? Because let's face it. I mean, the fans got after Angel Hernandez, especially if you go to Philadelphia. It's tough.
Angel Hernandez, you stink, and I don't like you.
That's actually a polite heckle. I think he's probably heard worse than "you stink" and "I don't like you" over the course of his time as an umpire.
Again, the kid in the background stalking out Angel Hernandez as he's driving by. Finally, former Major League manager Gabe Kapler. He's got an interesting side hustle. He's a social media influencer now.
Oh, this doesn't surprise me at all.
Kapler has now 62,000 followers on TikTok when he started this in January. What's he doing? Well, he's posting 5 tips a day for a healthy new year, provided exercise, daily dietary advice, and he's got an audience. Women on TikTok appear to be huge fans of Kapler. One of the comments on his first post being, "Thanks, babe. I mean, Gabe." Kapler now the assistant GM of the Marlins. Marlins, who make the Mets look competent, Miami at 21-41.
Yeah, Kapler's a good-looking guy, and I imagine that he. Look, here's what I know about social media. Social media sure does favor the attractive. It feels like the attractive in social media.
What?
I know.
No way.
I know, Gene.
God.
I like you. I should have told you. I should have told you to sit down first.
You mean to tell me that the algorithm on Instagram that's making a 12-year-old girl feel bad about herself, it has to do with looks? You're kidding me.
You should have been sitting. I didn't mean to drop that on you. I like you, and I'm worried that you're going to hit your head if you fall over with that shocking revelation. But yeah, it's kind of like the algorithm favors the attractive. And Gabe Kapler, let's face it, he's a few years younger than us, right? That guy, he's in better shape than us. He's like if you and I tried to do healthy advice, and well, first of all, we would have to follow it, which I'm not really interested in doing. But yeah, Gabe Kapler getting hit on by cougars on TikTok, that all kind of checks out. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Why don't we have Mike Danger's daily advice on TikTok?
Well, my daily advice?
Yeah, like your daily.
It'd be the same every day. Hey, here's my advice to you: don't F it up. It's my daily affirmation. I look in the mirror every day and I just say, all right, don't F it up. Maybe I'll switch it up. Once in a while, it might be, all right, let's, and this isn't directed at my family, let's make these bitches happy. That might be every once in a while, I'll throw that out there. Not directed at my family, just at life in general. Let's just get out there and make them happy. But don't F it up usually would be the daily. So it'd be a series of videos just every day. Don't F it up. Every day.
Look, my mind is let's make money today. Man, I'm in the wrong business to do this, mind you.
Oh,
the thing that yesterday, by the way, sidebar, when I do my little pep talks, I didn't even realize I did this. And sometimes, yes, I talk to myself when I'm walking around the hallways and I think nobody's watching, except Derek is watching. And he's like, I'm going to put a compilation together for you just clapping. And I realized I did that. And that's how I kind of...
So I was confused because Pizza Dude came in the studio and said, man, if I had a nickel for every shot of video that I have from you in our lobby clapping your hands before you get on the elevator, I'd be rich. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was explaining, and then now you just explained it to me. So this is a thing you do?
I didn't realize it
to pump yourself up? Like you get in your head and you like,
apparently, let's go. I don't realize I did that. And here's Derek with the security camera like, what are you doing?
And he's got a compilation going? A best
like,
of?
Yeah, like
Gene
clapping.
Now that is social media gold. That we have to find a way.
That's going to be like the guy that's walking through the door every single day with the khakis and just a different shirt. You know that meme that kind of goes, it's going to be like me walking into the lobby before I get on the elevator, clapping myself, thinking nobody's around.
Hold up, you got to pump yourself up to come into the sports bar? I thought this was all natural energy. You actually have to,
You have to pump yourself up for sales, Mike Danger.
Oh, for sales.
You hear a lot of no's in sales.
Right.
You have a lot of detractors.
I don't want your job.
You have to have that positive self-affirmation.
Well, you do have to have a positive attitude to do what we do. I do believe that. But I didn't know you had to pump yourself up. Saying that it's related to sales makes more sense than saying it's related to coming into the sports bar. I mean, we come in here with a full head of steam every afternoon at 3 o'clock, ready to serve up fantastic sports talk for the Flower City. So I don't know. I don't know what Derek's talking about. I've never seen you do it. I mean, we'll do a fist bump. When we do Friday nights, we'll do a fist bump before the game. That's like a little teammate kind of thing.
Yeah,
like, let's get after it, buddy.
Let's get after it. We got a call. We're a team here, but Big Brother watching me in the lobby here?
Cameras everywhere.
Yeah, but
assume that you're always being watched. You have to assume in the world that we live in now that you're always being watched. I have a neighbor who has a camera in his tree. And he watches the deer go between our house and his house every winter. It's like on a nightly occurrence, he'll send me a video of the deer going between our houses. And the only thing I can think of is that camera is dangerously closely pointed to almost pointed directly at my house. Let's tilt it away from my house, pal. Like it's not, but I'm like, if the wind gets it, it could be directly at.
This is why we use blinds, Mike.
Oh, absolutely, no question. But assume that you're being filmed. Assume that you're on camera always. The camera's always watching. It's like being in a Vegas casino, except you're walking through your everyday life. We got to get to last call next, 866-4FAN. If you want the final say in the sports bar, 866-4326 is our number.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.
Call in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Sure do appreciate you tuning us in today at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app. And don't forget about our video stream. You can like and subscribe to the Sports Bar at The Fan Rochester, our YouTube channel, and also streaming at The Fan Rochester on Twitch. Last call at 866-4326. Let's check in with our buddy.
John in Rochester. Hey, John.
Hey, guys. You're talking about Dan Hurley going to the Lakers. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of one of my favorite college coaches of all time, Urban Meyer. Couldn't make it in the NFL, and I'm afraid Dan Hurley might have a problem with the Lakers. What do you think? If Urban Meyer couldn't make it,
You can't even say that with a straight face, John. I hear you laughing.
Such a troll. You are the best, the absolute best. I mean, you had to really think hard to say, all right, how can I troll these guys?
The Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. You just want us to go off, John. That's what you do. You're trying to set us off.
No, I'm a big fan of Urban Meyer. I really am.
You're the worst. Get out of here. You're not a big fan of Urban Meyer. Oh, I'm such a big fan of that womanizing POS that couldn't cut it in the NFL and quit and left.
Can we just kind of go back? Thursday Night Football, he doesn't take the team flight.
Nope.
He goes out.
Yep.
And his hand is going places it shouldn't.
He's got somebody not named his wife grinding all up on him. This is a grown man.
Yeah.
This is the head coach, the face, the CEO, the front-facing image of your organization if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not a great look. Not a great look for Herb.
After your team lost.
Yeah.
Lost.
Yeah. No. That's funny, John. Thank you for that. Big Urban Meyer fan. Sure you are. Yeah.
If we go back, you brought this up before the break, like what if this falls through, then you go back to Reddick?
I would say that if you're a Laker fan and it does fall through and J.J. Redick becomes your next head coach, you are supremely disappointed. It's not going to work.
So there's history here because 20 years ago, the Lakers made a run and it was like a big talk, big run up. And then Coach K said, nah, not for me. And so along those same lines, well, what did the Lakers do? They dusted off Rudy Tomjanovich and hired the former Rockets coach who won a couple titles with the Rockets, mind you, but that didn't work. And then Phil Jackson came in. So who would be the Rudy Tomjanovich?
If I'm remembering the timeline right, Jackson was walking away from the Lakers, which is why they offered the job to Coach K.
Correct, because Jackson and Kobe were like, their relationship was shot at that point.
And then Coach K turned it down. Jackson wasn't coming back. They brought in Rudy Tom. Did Jackson then return later?
Yes,
again? Second tenure?
Second time, yeah.
That's right. So I just look at this and like the announcement today that the Lakers have interest in Dan Hurley. Well, now if you're a Laker fan, that's the guy. You got to get that guy. If you don't get that guy, what are we doing? Who are you bringing in that is going to equal what Dan Hurley is in your mind as far as what a head coach of this team should be? It ain't J.J. Redick. I can tell you that. Who's that guy? Who's that coach that you're bringing in? If it isn't, it almost feels like now it's Dan Hurley or bust if you're the LA Lakers. You have to give it up.
So that's why, who put this out there this morning? Was it the Lakers? Was
Dan
it
Hurley? I'm telling you, it's Dan Hurley. And Dan Hurley was on J.J. Redick's and LeBron James' podcast after UConn won their title. And there's a clip floating around the internet today in your feed. I'm sure you'll see it, where Redick is interviewing Hurley. And Hurley's explaining everything about their offense. And LeBron chimes in with a tweet being, I love this guy. This offense is great. His whole staff, this is great. So it would be something that LeBron would be into as well, unless, I don't want to shock you with anything. Maybe from time to time what LeBron puts out there isn't real on his social media accounts. Maybe he's not being 100% authentic with his.
Let me grab my pearl.
With his praise. Oh my God, are you kidding me? What? Well, that'll be an interesting story to follow along. And oh, by the way, Game 1 is tonight. Game 1 between the Celtics. And it does make sense that the Lakers would put this out there just to take some of that shine away from a team that's about to, embark on a quest to be the winningest NBA franchise, not named the LA Lakers. Celtics Mavs tonight.
Tomorrow on the show, he's one of my favorites, and I love that he has his own time slot now, albeit in the after hours. Bar Winkler's joining us.
Love Winkler. on the Infinity Sports Network. You can hear him late nights here on the Fan. Rochester, coming to us from Milwaukee. Do you think he has any idea about the Green Bay junior hockey team? Does he know anything about Michael Leone?
No, I
No?
would think no. No. The Green Bay Gamblers. Your thoughts?
Yeah, tell us what you know about the coach and GM of the Green Bay Gamblers, because he's coming to Rochester. Bart will probably laugh. And guys, it's been nice catching up with you. I'll talk to you later. Bart Winkler stopping by the Sports Bar tomorrow afternoon, 4:25. Love that. If you missed Joe Yerdon from Bleacher Report, who gave us a little bit more color on Mike Leone, and also previewed the Stanley Cup Final, which gets underway Saturday night between Florida and Edmonton. Or if you missed Mike Mutnansky from MuttStack.com out of Boston, who joined us in the 4 o'clock hour. You can find both of those conversations wherever you pod, including the free-to-download Odyssey app. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan.